assuming you're able to complete it. This training will provide us, as the teams, mentally tough, physically capable, and technically proficient junior NCOs, eliminating those who are not suited for work in some of the most dangerous combat zones in the world. This is Phase 1 of 4. Phase 1 is known as conditioning. For your general body of information, conditioning is a technical term that refers to the molding of non-conscious, instinctive, or non-intellectual characteristics. Conditioning as a process will continue throughout BUDS, during your SQTs, and on an ongoing basis during your time with the teams. This is the team's first chance to truly condition candidates. From this moment forward, training is designed in a way to mold you, your instincts, reactions, reward cycles, decision making, and other qualities
Alright.
to provide us with junior NCOs who are on spec. Some of you will fail this training because you cannot adapt quickly enough to new information and scenarios. Some of you will fail this training because they cannot keep up with the pace demanded. Most who fail, however, will fail purely by self-sabotage. They will quit. I encourage each of you now, if you are going to quit, please do so at the earliest possible moment. That is one less person I need to write down information about, and you will make my day that much easier from that point forward. We do not need quitters. You may give up at any time. You may be dropped on request. You may never complete this training. You can think I'm an asshole and leave the unit. Please, feel free. It's my job to teach you the basic skills you need. That's my duty to you. My duty to the unit as a whole is to weed out quitters, the non-adaptable, the slow, the mentally weak, and those who cannot integrate themselves into a team mentality. I take both of those duties fairly seriously.
I think the echoing is gone.
It pays to be exceptional and to show that you are exceptional during BUDS. Do not disappoint me. Petty Officer Neil?
Yes, Chief.
Could you take charge of the class and jog them over to the rifle range?
Roger that.
Thank you.
Everyone falling on me? Moving.
Oh, one tap C.
Shy, it's not working.
Ooh. Whoa, the rubber band is real.
Maybe double tap it.
Oh my god.
I'm triple tapping it. It's not working.
Maybe Control C.
I've tried all that. Like, I know the controls. It's Control C, double tap C. I don't know. Maybe it worked for the operation. I don't know. It's not working now.
All right.
Who just said that?
I did.
Who was I?
Me, right in front of you.
What's your name?
Bravo.
Bravo.
Yep.
Everything we do here, especially in movement, is going to be information. Do you have a problem with that?
I've already voiced my concerns with it.
I'm asking you, do you have a problem with that? I didn't ask if you voiced your concerns. Do you have a problem with that?
No, let's not hold up this guy's training, man.
Let's move out.
Yeah. Yep. I'll also get you on board with the general methodology of the
Fall in
course
here.
of training as a whole.
Address to the left
Roger that.
for the first man.
Okay, thank you, Petty Officer.
Roger that, Chief.
Okay. This next piece, some of you may have questions about. I encourage you to ask those questions when I mention that it's appropriate to do so. This next piece is in regards to basics of military courtesy and how they apply. Some of you may be wondering, why is this necessary or appropriate? This is obviously not the real military. I'm obviously not a SEAL chief. I've never been a SEAL chief. I don't think I'm one. I have personal knowledge of people who have done that kind of work for real and have plenty of respect for them. So I'm not trying to pose as someone I'm not. I'm not trying to get you to treat me like someone I'm not when I say this next piece. The reason this piece is included is because the foundations of rank are an easy and understandable way to begin generating discipline and adherence to a disciplined mindset and a disciplined structure. Does anyone have any questions on why that is?
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
Two more people.
No, Chief.
Negative, no questions at this time.
Okay, fantastic. So, with that said, and bearing that in mind, we've got all that piece. Now, here's the piece we're going to be using both here and going forward. I am Chief Edmund. Assisting me today is Petty Officer Neil, and observing is Petty Officer Martini. You will refer to instructors by rank and last name. Petty Officers 3rd through 1st class are referred to collectively as Petty Officer last name instead of gradations of rank. That is why, although two Petty Officers with me are differently ranked, they're both Petty Officer. Chiefs through Master Chiefs are referred to as Chief, Senior, or Master Chief last name, hence Chief Edmund. Officers are referred to as rank last name, for example, Captain Vandal. If responding to an NCO, that would be a Petty Officer 3rd class through a Master Chief, you will reply either Roger, rank, in the affirmative, or negative, rank, in the negative. So Roger Chief, negative Chief. When responding to officers, you will reply either Roger Sir in the affirmative or negative Sir in the negative. Individuals who are not officers, and I am not one of them, are never to be addressed by Sir. This information is in regard to training and off-mission formal situations. So if you're hanging around in the mess hall, rank does not really apply there. On mission, team will utilize call signs to maintain communication security. Call signs should be utilized without prefacing of rank or any other title, and names, ranks, and the word Sir should not be used on mission in reference to another team member, as the use of any of these may provide critical information about team structure to the enemy or to uncleared individuals such as civilians. Candidate Thatcher, do you understand this information?
Yes, Chief.
Okay, Candidate Diaz. Same question.
Yes, Chief.
Candidate Bravo, same question.
Roger, Chief.
Candidate McMillan, same question.
Oh yeah, instructor. All understood.
Okay. There was one completely correct answer, two acceptable answers, and one that was off spec. Thatcher, Which one was off spec and why?
Huya instructor was off spec because the proper way to address you when you are referring to us is by your rank and not your position as a billet. Where it's a Roger Chief, negative Chief, yes Chief, or no Chief. By your instruction, we're
Okay, I
using
fucked up.
Roger and negative.
Okay. The reason I'm being an asshole about this at this very moment is because we want to start generating attention to detail. If you cannot understand, process, and retain the information regarding something so incredibly basic as what to say when asked a question that has a yes or no answer, when we've got a more complex task, it's going to be hard for me to trust you. Make sure you're keeping that information in your head correctly. Okay, we're going to move on. You will be undergoing a scored rifle qualification. This is going to take a little while. There's one of me that's actually qualified to do this. We've got an observer, and we've got someone who is still working up to teach this course so that I don't have to do it every single time. One at a time, you will secure from the box labeled weapons on top of one of the tables behind you, corresponding to the lane that I climb up to the viewing stand for. An M16. You will secure from one of the boxes labeled ammunition below the table exactly 2 magazines. After you've done that, you will climb up to the top of the tower. You'll then follow range officer instructions. It's going to be me again. And you'll undergo a course of fire. You've all done something similar to the course of fire we're doing today during your assessment. It's going to be 20 rounds in each of the prone, crouching, and standing positions on the 5 targets in your lane, closest to farthest, left to right. So you're going to be shooting each target 4 times. If you miss a target, you'll move on to the next target. Once you've engaged the farthest target, you're to cycle back to the closest and repeat through that pattern. So you go close to far, back to close, to far, back to close, etc. Once you've completed your 20 rounds in a certain body position, you will cease fire, maintain your current position, inform me that you've fired your 20 rounds in that body position, and wait for range commands. Any questions on this evolution?
Negative Chief.
Affirm, Chief.
What
No,
is your
Chief, no
question?
questions.
So, Chief, are we shooting 20 bullets in one body position, then 20 in another body position?
Yes, that is what I said.
Roger, Chief.
So you will have 2 magazines for the M16. I presume that you're able to do the basic math to tell you how many rounds total you'll have. There will be 3 body positions. You'll be shooting 20 rounds in each body position. Candidate Thatcher, a secure weapon, maybe up at the top of lane 2.
Roger, Chief.
Petty Officer Neil, you're going to be my double check here, so
Roger that.
come on up. If you want to talk amongst yourselves while other candidates are shooting, you can do so. If you do, please make sure you're on whispering so as not to disturb the person shooting.
Guys, you there?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to set the jog thing. Is it in controls? Because I don't know, it never happened before.
I have it for me as a one tap Charlie.
One tap Charlie. So I go to configure
Okay.
controls.
Thatcher?
And that's reporting is in
Configure.
Yep.
Controls.
Okay.
Standby.
You have obviously the rifle. You have
La,
exactly
la,
two
la, la.
magazines.
Yes, Chief.
And then
Okay. Take the rifle off your back.
you scroll all
Put
the
the rifle
all the way down
pointing
to
downrange,
like
load it.
common. No, wait.
Infantry movement, right?
Do you know how to operate the safety on the weapon?
Standby. Infantry movement.
Been a
Checking.
while, but I believe
There.
Chief, I believe it is.
There is.
I do.
There's
we
a
go.
combat
It's
pace.
okay.
You see it?
Place the weapon on safe.
Combat pace
And
toggle.
with the
Yeah.
weapon on safe,
I have
I'm
it
going
to double
test
tap
the
C.
safety.
This
I
is for
also
me.
have
You
that.
try to
I have
operate the
that.
trigger with the
And
weapon
then
on
you have
safe. You should
walk
not fire around.
and
You
run.
can
Where is
try
it?
to
What
so.
do you have in walk
You
run
understand?
toggle?
Yes.
C.
Okay.
Left
Attempt to
control
do
or
so
C?
No,
at this
just C.
time.
Just C. Should I
Weapon
set
does
it
not
to
fire,
C?
Chief.
If you want to.
Fantastic. Your safety is functioning properly. Assume the prone position. Take the weapon off safe. Do you see all 5 targets?
Yes, Chief.
Okay. Do you have any questions regarding the course of fire?
At what time do I?
And then you have to click
repack,
OK, not
Chief?
cancel.
I don't remember how to repack.
Don't worry about that. We will get there.
I fixed it. I
Understood,
fixed it. I fixed it.
I
Look.
have no further questions.
Right, you
Okay.
could.
20 rounds, self-counted, prone. Shooter ready?
Shooter ready.
Do you know a combat pace will have
Engage.
you weapon up and walking in, ready to shoot, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm watching him go.
I fucked up when I said Huya instructor. Didn't know that.
Why is it really instructor?
Yeah, I don't know why.
That was
I
so
don't know.
easy. Like,
I
I also
I
messed
feel
up.
like
I
if
said
you had
yes.
said that, they would have accepted it in the real world
Yeah.
because that's like extreme motivation.
Yeah, no, well, yeah. Like
Yeah.
if you say it, you don't get in trouble or anything.
I mean, realistically, no one's getting in trouble here because it's all virtual. You know?
It's all virtual, yeah.
Yeah, true.
Oh, he's shooting fast, dude.
20
Yeah.
rounds, Chief.
Okay.
I've been
Assume the
practicing
crouching
this
position
station
and
like
reload your weapon.
past 2 nights before the operation. I just hope at least 55 out of 60. At least.
I haven't
Weapon
played
reloaded.
Arma in easily like 2 months now.
Okay, 20 rounds,
Oh,
self-counted, crouching. Shooter ready?
Night's easy, just on the
Always
far
ready.
target,
Engage.
aim like slightly above it, because that's what like
Right.
the one that everyone misses. Like it's
Yeah.
only the last one, because the other ones are easy. So
Slight,
just slightly.
slightly above
Yeah,
it.
just ever so slightly above it because this is a holdover. Because I think the zero is
Yeah.
at 200 meters as opposed to 300 meters like it should be.
Yeah. I don't know the exact distance, but I've been doing that before the operation, and it's just slightly above the target on all body positions. So standing up, prone, crouched, and prone.
Yeah, for the last target.
20 rounds, Chief.
Jesus
Okay,
Christ, he was
repack
fast.
your magazines by self-interacting.
We can take our time here, right? Don't have to be that fast.
Yeah, I mean I'm going
No.
to because there's no incentive to shoot fast. 'Cause
Yeah,
the
I'm
rounds of
just gonna
firefight,
take
if
my
you miss
time.
the most, the fastest. you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because you do not want to miss.
When you are all done repacking,
This is not
Reload your
CS:GO. You
weapon.
don't have to.
assume
Yeah,
the
this is not a Twitch response. Yeah.
Yeah.
and advise is ready.
Understood, Chief.
Oh man. But you know what's hard for me? You know, counting those 20s because sometimes I mess up. But
Yeah.
like 5, 5, 5.
Yeah, because you're so focused on the actual
Yeah.
target that you actually forget, like,
They'll be like 5, 5, 5.
Just count it out loud.
Ready,
After you get
Chief.
the fifth one, just
Yeah.
say 1.
Yeah.
If you hit the fifth,
20
5
rounds,
again.
self-count,
Go 2,
standing.
3,
Yeah.
and then 4,
Shoot
and then
ready?
you can change positions.
Always ready.
Engage.
Damn. It's making them count.
Oh, that's a hit.
Wait.
It's actually going
Very
pretty
good.
well.
Yeah. Hits 5 of them.
Damn.
You got no scope, no
Nice.
nothing. Just iron sight. Oh. Nice.
20 rounds, Chief.
Was that 20?
Fantastic.
I guess.
Step down, return the weapon to the box, and send up one of the other candidates.
Roger, Chief.
I think it's your turn, Bob.
Y'all want me to
Good
go
luck,
next?
mate.
Okay.
No, I think it's yours
I
because
think, yeah.
he
You
has.
just one of the candidates.
Yeah, he selects.
I have 2 misses.
Bravo, you're up.
Nice.
Alrighty.
You only missed 2?
Did I?
Oh,
And that
no,
was
I'm just asking.
I don't know.
prone position.
Because I think I heard the petty officer saying this only 2.
I think
It's
I did
pretty-
all right.
It's pretty freaking good, yeah.
Well, I can hope. I practiced after the last time. I think I got near 40 last time.
Like last buds or?
Yeah. I was in class 19 as well, and I was unable to complete just due to time constraints, but I also
Okay.
never.
Bravo.
Yes, Chief.
Okay.
That's me.
How do I change my volume?
With the weapon, do you have exactly 2
So
magazines
you
on you?
press control
Deck
and
two
then the
magazines,
tab
60 rounds.
thing.
Fantastic.
Okay, so make sure when
Take
whispering so I'm not
the
disturbing
bag,
them.
load it with
Yeah.
the
Alright, but yeah, pretty much what
Look.
happened was I ran out of. I have work
You know how to
obligations.
operate
Most
the,
times I
sensor?
can't participate on Fridays. Some Fridays I can,
Weapons on safe.
and I will do it as I need to, as I can. They already know this. They're already aware.
With the weapon on safe. Nothing should happen.
So last time I tried to complete this, it was on Saturdays, not Sundays,
Absolutely.
which is
Okay.
usually I have to work every other Saturday. I just wasn't able to complete the training. I wasn't able to get the time off from work, so I never got my second chance at
Oh god.
Okay.
Yeah.
qualification on the gun range, which is what was supposed to happen in phase 2.
Engage.
What are you supposed to do in phase 2?
Oh, you get a second chance essentially,
Oh, nice.
but you didn't hear that from me.
Yeah.
Don't tell the instructors you know that.
Oh, definitely not.
But I did horrible. Didn't get my second. I just think it was I miscounted. Once, I believe I reloaded improperly, and it just caused me to miss a whole bunch. I just didn't get a bunch of shots, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I missed out on 5 just on a miss
Weapons on
reload.
safe.
Or sorry, a miscount. A 5 just on a miscount because I only did 15, and I thought I had done 20.
Loading.
And then
20 rounds, self-counted, crouching, shooter ready.
I hadn't practiced
ready.
my controls,
Engage.
so I also missed like a bunch.
Whoa.
Nice.
Ricochet, wait for the fourth one to come back up.
Magic bullet. It's the one that killed Kennedy.
Yeah.
Wow, he has actually not missed a single one on crouch yet.
Nice.
20 for 20 on crouch.
Nice.
I'm not terribly worried about scores. I'm more worried about my
Passing.
ability to do things.
Oh.
Oh yeah, because you have to get recycled for the whole month.
What do you mean recycle? What do you mean
Because if you fail to attend one phase, then you have to get recycled.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, we'll call that
Yeah.
weapon on safe.
Yeah, I just hope I can make
Okay.
it to university and all
Repack your
that.
magazines. Advise me
Because
what kind of
Sundays
rounds
it's
you have
hard.
left.
Sundays is
and I
hard
would
because
assume they
Monday
still
it's
can't
like
get
people
back.
work, people have classes Monday, and for us like me and you, McMillan, like it's 5 it's like gonna be like late.
Yeah, it's okay for me.
It's okay, yeah, no, it's okay for me too. Like as long as it doesn't break the 3 a.m. barrier on Sundays, because like I said, classes in the morning, you know.
How many
Yeah.
of you guys have already done this? I think
15
you've already done this before.
I had done it.
Yeah. What about Diaz? Have you done it before?
20
No,
rounds,
it's
self-counted.
first
Reload your weapon.
run.
No, he's been here for like 7 days.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
He had
Yeah, no.
his first half
Well,
last
20
Friday.
rounds,
I
self-counted.
think last time I went
Yeah.
through was like a completely fresh class.
Engage.
Like nobody had done it before, so this part went really slow.
Like this part?
Yeah, because he had to like instruct everybody on how to use the weapon.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be next after him.
I think there was one person who already knew generally what they were doing and was able to go pretty fast, but I think there were 4 or 5 of us, just like here.
Yeah, that was Calvary's.
Oh yeah, he was the fast one.
Yeah. And he's the only one who made it to the end.
Roger.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Step down.
What
return
the
weapon
other guys
box,
drop out for?
and send
I don't know. No, I don't know. The reason that I dropped out because I came too late for the second phase because I was sleeping. It was 4 a.m.
Oh,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so I had to go recycle because I fall asleep.
oh no.
Wait, it started at 4 a.m.?
No, it started at 2, but I didn't wake up till 4.
Oh no.
It started at 2 a.m.?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, if that happens again, I can guarantee, like, I didn't saw on the calendar, like, anything past
Alright,
1
next.
a.m.?
Alright, mate. Alright, let's get this right. Oh, yeah. Here we go.
You just wait for the target to come back up.
No, I'm talking about in round count.
No,
So
no,
he-
that he didn't down. The ricochet wasn't one of the ones he overshot.
No, what I'm saying, that would be an extra shot though, right? Like that we have to give him. We have to give him one bullet.
No, because he waited for target 4 to come back up and re-engaged it after it got ricocheted onto him.
Candidate Macmillan ready.
Oh, roger that. Roger that. Okay. Like roger that, Chief. Okay.
Okay, Macmillan, do you have exactly 2 magazines for that weapon?
Yeah, Chief.
Okay. You know how to operate the safety on the weapon.
Yes, Chief.
Okay. Place the weapon on safety and point it downrange.
Weapon sit on safety.
Okay. With the weapon on safe, attempt to fire it. Nothing should happen.
Nothing happening. So
Okay. Assume a prone position. Take weapon off safe.
weapon off
Do you have any
safety.
questions regarding the course of fire?
Negative, Chief.
Okay. 20 rounds, self-counted, prone. Shooter ready?
Shooter ready.
Engage.
So what are you done?
Okay. Assume the crouching position, reload. 20 rounds, self-counted, crouching. Shooter ready?
Shooter ready.
Engage.
20 done.
Okay, repack your magazines, and then assume the standing position.
Repacking. Fuck, I cannot see the last target. What the fuck? I don't know if I'm hitting it or no. I can't see it. Wait, let me say this. Shooter ready.
Okay, 20 rounds, self-counted, standing. Engage.
Done.
Okay. Step down, return the weapon to the box, and send up Diaz.
Roger.
That's the ship's company, yeah.
Yep.
Diaz, your
Smaller
turn.
divisions, and then larger
Roger.
divisions can be upwards of 200 to 300.
Really?
Mm-hmm. No, we're talking about division. We're talking about divisions. You have the entire ship's company, then you have the departments, and then you have divisions.
Yeah, because
And then inside
a
a division,
is at least 4 battalions.
and then you have
You got brigades even bigger than that.
because you have departments, divisions, and then you have work centers underneath that.
Of course.
So work centers can be as small as like, I think mine was 4 people, me included.
Dude, we call those fire teams in the army, and a fire team
Yeah.
goes down to 2 men.
Can the
So
DS chief?
2 to 4 is a fire team.
Okay.
As soon as you hit 5, you're a squad.
You have
5 to 9,
exactly 2
and then you can
magazines
push
for
it
the
to
weapon.
12 depending on your MTO.
I farm 2 magazines.
Oh, we have work centers that are as big as like
Take weapon
30
off
to
the back,
40.
point down
It really
Yeah,
just
30
depends on the billet.
Yeah, 30 to
No,
40 is a
operate the
platoon.
safety on the
That's a
weapon.
platoon size element.
I farm
Yes.
chief.
Were you able to
Okay,
see the
load
last
the weapon,
target? Because I was not
place it
able
on
to see it. Like, for me-
I zoomed in.
yeah, even when I zoom in, but for me it looks like
just
it
gotta
doesn't even
fire and
exist.
Put the
forget.
weapon on safe and point
Oh
it
yeah,
in
it's
range.
pretty. It's
Attempt
you
to
just
fire the
like
weapon,
aim. You
nothing
just
should
pretty
happen.
much put your
Roger. Nothing's happening.
what is the
Okay,
part of
assume
the
the forward
rifle
position, take weapon
between
off
the
safe.
circle?
Yeah,
Forget,
The front
I'm
sight
blanking
post.
out. Yeah, the front
Right.
sight post. You pretty much put your front sight post directly over the target, and you'll hit it.
Do you have any
Like
questions
if you
Yeah.
can't see the
regarding
target in
course
your front sight post, you might want to aim a little higher.
no, that's not the
Yeah,
problem.
'cause-
Negative
I
chief.
mean, I cannot see.
Yeah,
Like, I
20
don't
rounds,
even
self-counted.
know if I hit it or not.
Shooter ready?
That's the thing.
you'll know if you hit it or not because you'll
Ready,
feel it.
chief.
You'll feel the shot.
Engage.
I mean, but once I did the practice, it was dark time. When in dark time you can see it, I can see it very clearly. But now, it doesn't look even exist for me.
Uh,
You got draw distance.
Yeah, I set it to max.
I think it just means you can't see whether it's going up or down. Right?
Oh, I didn't really care.
Maybe.
I put it where I thought it should be, and I fired, and then I moved on because
See?
there's no sense in worrying about
Yeah.
your last shot.
Now I can see it when it's go down, but when it goes up, I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't even worry. I didn't even worry about watching whether or not they were going to go up and down. I just trusted my shots.
But let's assume I missed, because I didn't miss any of the others. Assuming I missed all of this last target, what would that be?
Well,
That'd be
20, Chief.
15, so 60
15.
minus 15,
Roger.
Fuck.
Reload. Assume the
45,
position.
right?
yep. That'd be starting.
But I'm
That's
not
the
sure.
minimum to pass, right? It's 40, I
Let me
thought.
self-count.
I think 40,
Ready,
40,
Chief?
41, something like
Engage.
that. I think last time I went through this, I got 41 because I miscounted, and then I missed a lot. I miscounted for about 5
Chief.
because I overshot by 5 that first time,
Yes.
and
The
then
ricochet. Yeah,
in crouch and
Engage the next
prone
target as if it didn't.
and standing, I missed
Roger.
nearly all of my 5th target.
Huh.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But it's okay. Second chances are everything. Like, if you're not satisfied with your score this time around, you can redo it in phase 2. You
No,
didn't
no.
hear that from me.
Alright.
$20 rounds, Chief.
Okay. Repack your magazines. And then assume the standing.
I think, like I was telling them when you were up there, though, this is going by way faster than it did my last cycle.
Yeah, last time, because we were, don't forget, we were many.
How many people were in the last cycle?
Me,
I think we had
Ty,
5,
no, no.
or was it 4?
Me, you, Lieberman,
And
Calabrese,
Calabrese.
Ty, about 5
I
or
thought-
6, 5 or 6.
Yeah, that was a lot. I thought it was 5.
So what happened? You guys failed out of something, or you just came up and had to get recycled?
Yeah, something came up. I had work come up. I made it through phase 1.
Ready, Chief.
How dare you have work?
20 rounds
Right.
self-counted.
Well,
Standing. Shooter ready?
I voluntarily dropped out because
Ready,
of it.
Chief.
I already knew I wasn't able to make it, so I told them, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna drop out and I'll recycle later.
But how do you have work at 2 a.m.?
No, I mean, I'm in the U.S.
Whoa, fuck. True, sorry.
Yeah. And
Fuck, I'm so dumb. Fuck.
you're all right, man. You're all right. It's cool.
It's early for you. It's okay.
Yeah, it's time difference. I understand. It's late where you are. I get it.
No, because I immediately think 2 a.m. I don't think 8.
For me, it starts at 6.
Yeah, I got recycled because I fall asleep and didn't wake up.
Oh, you were that guy?
No, I did not fall asleep while playing.
Oh, you heard about that?
Yeah, I did hear about that one.
I did not fall
man.
asleep while playing, but I supposed to wake up at 2, and I didn't wake up till 4.
Yeah,
So I was like,
I think oh man, I pulled out of the thing a couple days in
round, Chief.
advance on my
Roger.
situation. I just like
Step down.
put on the calendar. I was like, hey, I'm not gonna be able to be there. I'm gonna cancel out.
So it's what?
he just came out from the box.
Just casually jump
Immersive.
through. Roger
There he
and
is.
negative thing is a little different from the Navy though. Got me all fucked up.
Yeah, that's a very much army thing.
Are you supposed to have no
I think. Well, I
After
think
you
it might
finish.
also be applicable to. I mean, I'm
have to
assuming
what?
it's applicable to the seals as
After
well.
you finish, are you supposed to have no
recruited,
magazines left?
What,
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
2 seals when I was a
Just
recruiter?
confirming.
I think one of them made it through. But I haven't talked to him since,
That-
so I don't even.
that was
I don't
actually
know
easy, man.
anything about.
Did I miss all,
Really?
some of
Their
the stuff?
procedures.
You only missed the far one. I saw
But,
you miss
Like the way I was
once,
trained was
I
it's
think, or
yes, no,
twice.
or I.
But
Yes,
besides
chief,
say
the
no,
that's
far
chief, I,
one,
chief.
you were pretty
All
good
the
with
seals
no.
I've
I
interacted with,
think.
they would say
Because I cannot
I-
see the far one.
Yeah,
It
I
was too
or
far.
I.
I was not able to see
Yeah.
it.
Oh, you know what you have to do? You have
Chief.
to zoom in because you can
Hi,
zoom in.
chief.
You know.
Yes, chief.
I did zoom in, but I don't see it.
Oh, please, don't fucking
maybe
kill me,
visibility
chief.
range.
I mean, in the practice, I used to be able to see because it's in the dark. There's
I
no
know for
light.
sure. Like I hit all at standing up, but I missed crouch and prone. I guaranteed. Doesn't matter though. We'll pass. So.
I made Cobb facepalm pretty hard when I did my initial training for enlisting into the SEALs here.
Warrant officer call?
Because I went he did my training and I made him facepalm pretty hard because I like went all boot camp on him. Full on like yelling in my microphone and everything.
Pay attention.
that's
Tim.
funny. That's funny.
Okay. Hope everyone feels like they performed up to their expected standard. You will have another chance to shoot this at the start of each phase. I'm looking forward to seeing improvement. Go ahead and mount up in the covered Humvee behind me.
Roger, Chief.
Gentlemen, from now on, repeat the orders. Chief gives you an order to mount up or move. Repeat the order that's given. Everybody copy?
Roger,
Petty
that.
officer.
Copying all
Roger,
orders.
Petty Officer. I am having. There it is.
Dismount.
Dismounting.
Dismount I.
Come closer. I'm not gonna.
Come closer, I.
Not
Moving.
gonna yell
We don't
every
say-
time we come
we don't say
closer.
come.
Make sure you're appropriately spaced for me, so I don't have to worry about that kind of shit. In this bin labeled equipment, to the left of the one labeled uniforms, not the far left one directly to the left of the one labeled uniforms. Secure yourself an Alice pack. Execute.
During Alice pack
Your
from
Alice
the
pack.
left
Oh,
equipment,
is
not the
it?
far left equipment, Chief.
You're 1 Alice pack from the left equipment. Not far equipment, I. Is it the Field Pack LC1 or the RT1493?
It's just the Alice pack.
The one without the radio.
The LC pack.
Oh.
Make sure you're back on yelling. And make sure you're keeping track of where I'm going and you're keeping up with me. I do not, like I said, want to be, hey, come here, come here, come here all the time.
Understood,
Roger,
Chief.
keeping track of you, Chief.
In
Fire
the-
chief.
In the rightmost box labeled special purpose, Go in that box, secure yourself the weapon labeled M60E4. It's actually an M60E3. Arma will often label things as something when they are in fact something else. This is part of your introduction to that being a thing. You're going to go in that box, secure a weapon. You're going to go in one of the boxes below it, secure yourself 5 magazines.
Secure one M60E4 from the farthest
Far
to the
right,
right
special purpose box.
special purpose box, and 5 magazines from the boxes below it. Aye.
Execute. And don't worry about reading back every time.
Roger, no longer reading back, Chief.
Roger, Chief.
Once you've secured that, mount back up in the vehicle, and we're going to head back to the range.
Roger, Chief.
Roger, Chief.
You got your gun, step aside.
So it's the E.
Loading.
Martini in, all in.
Yep, thank you. Dismount.
Dismount.
Roger, Chief.
Dismount aye.
Okay. You guys are fine there. I'm going to step to the side here. Take the weapon off your back. Place it on safety. Keep facing the direction you're facing. Don't get shot in the fucking head here. Okay. Everyone knew that Teams begins life as a heavy weapons operator. Heavy weapons operators obviously carry lighter, light medium machine guns to provide a base of fire for the team to maneuver from. I think it should be fairly self-evident why it's important that we have a sufficiency of heavy weapons operators at any given time, especially given our mission profiles and our lack of organic heavy weapon support. You have currently the M60E3. M60E3 fires a 7.62mm NATO round, so that's 5.51. It's not the shitty AK round. Was adopted in 1957. Has a maximum effective range of 1,000 meters. The base zeroing setting on that weapon, all the weapons got retuned as of yesterday, and the base zeroing setting on that weapon is now 200 meters. So if you were to just aim down your sights without doing anything to the sight, you'd be zeroed for 200 meters. For those of you interested, it is a top of arc zero at 200 meters. It's not a 5,200 meter zero, so you'll have to hold low on closer targets.
Mm-hmm.
The zeroing proceeds in increments of 100 meters up to 1,000 meters. So if you adjust your zeroing upward once, you're at 300, again 400, 500, etc. Any questions regarding the basic features of the M60?
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
Fantastic. M60 is a light machine gun, just about the heaviest light machine gun you're going to encounter. Light machine guns are meant for fire superiority and being able to place a continuous stream of heavy fire downrange in a short amount of time. This is known as suppressive fire or area fire. LMGs are basically intended for suppressive purposes. Definition of suppression is one that can be misinterpreted. Suppression is commonly mistaken for placing downrange as many rounds as possible to keep the enemy from firing. To be efficient with suppression, you must place a sustained fire rate downrange. You want to get and maintain fire superiority over the enemy. Whether you are on a specific target or not, so whether you're offering point or area fires, maintaining that fire rate is important. If no targets are immediately visible, suppress the general direction of contact while searching for targets to directly engage. The sustained fire rate of the M60 is usually 3 to 5 rounds every 3 to 5 seconds in a burst, not individual shots. Depending on the situation, an appropriate fire rate may be higher or lower. If you have other heavy weapon operators with you to provide additional suppression, you can spread your shots and fire rate more evenly to allow a more continuous base of fire and allows you to preserve your personal ammunition. Try to have a steady stream of fire while maintaining an overall fire rate appropriate to the contact. Any questions on the employment of the M60?
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
Fantastic. Okay. What you guys are going to do, when I tell you to, you're going to go ahead and break out to one of the 3 lanes. 2 of you are going to have to double up on one of the lanes. I expect you to be able to self-organize this. You have 5 magazines for the weapon. Use one of them in each of the standing, crouching, and prone positions. Work the targets, become familiarized with the weapon. Fire the weapon in aimed bursts, so 3 to 5 round bursts. You've got 2 additional magazines after those 3 to play with. Familiarize yourself thoroughly with the weapon. Any questions?
Negative.
No, Chief.
Execute.
So me and you together?
If questions arise while you are executing this course of fire, ask. This is intended to familiarize you with the weapon. It's not just dump the mags down range. You're intended to come away from this with an appreciation for using the weapon at various ranges. Short to medium range.
Copy that, Chief.
Roger, Chief.
Understood, Chief.
You're probably in safety.
Range is hot. You can engage on your own hook.
Engaging.
All right, I'm reloaded.
Ready.
Try to get a kill. Try to get a kill. 3 to 5 round bursts. 3 to 5 round bursts.
Out of ammo. Reloading.
Burst. 3 to 5 round burst.
Reloading.
Die, motherfucker, die. I remember this song. Die, motherfucker, die. I remember. So hard to
Lollipop your targets if you have them. When you get in further ranges down. You should have one target. Bring your sights up to his head. There you go.
Reloading.
Out. Reloading.
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 Oh, yeah.
Reloading.
Out of ammo.
Out of ammo.
Roger that.
Yeah, me too.
So do you two know what lollipopping is?
No, petty officer.
Say again, petty officer?
Do you know what lollipopping is?
Lollipopping? No.
Okay, so if you're ranged at 200 right now, instead of sometimes going to up your yardage, what you do is you bring your weapon sight further up on the target. So for the furthest target, you probably lollipop. You put your sight right on the top of his head, and that'll adjust the range for you quickly.
Roger.
So when you get a chance, come on, we'll come on together and we can practice that. You really want to try to get that feel of that 3 to 5 round burst, because out in the field you can expend a lot of ammunition. We don't have a lot of ammunition on a lot of our firefights where things become very heavy. You'll find yourself running out of ammunition. So really try to keep that in mind when you're on that 60.
Understood, Petty Officer. I'll try it now with the remaining ammunition I have.
Was I not firing at 3 to 5 rounds?
I don't know who was who, but there was a lot of over 5 rounds.
Right.
But it just takes a little bit of practice, because it rattles off real quickly, real light on the trigger, and you'll find that's good shooting down there. Are you putting that target on his head?
I am, Petty Officer.
Yeah, you see the difference?
Yes, Petty Officer.
Yeah, even probably around your 4th target to your 5th, you can start just raising that trigger sight up a little bit more, because you'll find yourself when it shoots, it's gonna first of all, it's gonna come up higher, but when you fire, it won't hit the sandbags.
Understood, Petty Officer.
Good job. You guys can go ahead and get on down from the stand.
If everyone's finished their rounds,
Aye,
go
Petty
ahead
Officer.
and step down. Okay. Does anyone have any questions regarding the M60 at all?
Negative, Chief.
Negative, Chief.
Negative, Chief.
Are we going to be going over talking to each other?
Talking to each other as far as communication during deployment, or as far as
No.
the like talking
So-
guns style?
Yeah, talking
Situation.
guns where you shoot, then you pause, then I shoot.
That's beyond the scope of this, but since you
Okay.
asked, I'll go over.
I was
it
just curious.
Since you asked, I'll go over it real quickly for everyone's info. That what he's talking about, talking guns, dovetails with maintaining that suppressive fire rate with another heavy weapons operator. It's basically, as I was talking about, instead of both of you firing that 3 to 5 round burst every 3 to 5 seconds, it's one of you takes a turn, then the other takes a turn, and then you go back and forth. If you can offset your ammo expenditure, so one of you's reloading while the other one still has about half a mag left, it's even better. Like I said, the full details of that are beyond the scope of this. That's a piece of the heavy weapons SQT. We'll get Lieutenant Commander Gremlin will get more into detail about that, and you guys can practice it there. But the basic principle is that you're working with someone to maintain that stream of fire on target. Any other questions about the M60?
Negative, Chief.
Negative, Chief.
Negative, Chief.
Gentlemen, are you aware of the term SQT?
Negative,
Yes.
Petty Officer.
Yes, Petty
Affirm,
Officer.
Petty Officer.
Affirm.
Who said affirmative?
Me.
Go ahead
Miss.
and inform the rest what SQT means.
SQT stands for SEAL Qualification Course. SEAL Qualification Training.
Very
It's basically qualifies you for your specific MOS, your like your specialty, a military occupational specialty that I believe you would choose later on.
But yeah, it's partly correct. You can take SQTs that fall outside of your range as well. But the answer I was looking for was SEAL qualification training.
Roger that.
just to make sure you're all aware of that pro word.
Okay. Mount back up in the covered Humvee. We've had the fun with guns parts. Now we're going to get into a few of the more academic modules.
Mounting up.
Not up, I.
Martini in. All mounted, Chief.
Alright, alright. Talking gun. Haven't done that in a while. Die, motherfucker, die. I never forget that phrase. Die, motherfucker, die. Dismount.
Dismount.
Dismount, I.
Okay. You should all have a map and compass on you. Go in the rightmost bin labeled equipment in front of you. Secure yourself a set of map tools and a Fulton flashlight.
Roger, Chief.
Roger, Chief.
Oh shoot.
Tools in. Let's go. My navigation now.
Come on, guys.
Okay. We're going to cover some basics of land navigation. This is important for you as well as the point man. It's important to you in the short term because there's going to be a practical exercise during phase 2 that is pass fail, and if you're unable to complete that, then you're going to have a real rough time. It's important to you in the longer term because on mission it's essential to retain at least a basic idea of your position and to be able to know where you are and what you're doing. First thing we're going to cover is the compass. Go ahead and double tap K to open up your compass. Double tapping it will keep it up, pressing and holding will flash it up, and when you release it will disappear, but you're going to need it up for a little bit here. First thing we're going to cover is determining a bearing. There are 2 sets of numbers around the outside of your compass. One that proceeds from 0 to 64 and one that proceeds from 0 to 360 or 359, however you want to put it that way. Do not concern yourself with the outer set, the one that proceeds from 0 to 64. We'll be using solely the degree bearings, not the radial bearings. So the inner ring that goes from 0 to 360. And the way you'll determine a bearing is you'll line up the window on the top piece of your compass, the line in the middle of that with what you're trying to determine a bearing to. And then as you do that, if you look around, you'll see that your compass will rotate, obviously. The red line on your compass face indicates the direction to the object you're looking at, and you can then relate that to the numbers on the face of the compass itself. You will get a 3-digit bearing wherever you look. So if I was to look uphill to your right at that little radio tower looking thing, and I was to take my compass and go through that procedure, I'll be able to look down at the compass and say, okay, I can determine where that red line is. And I'm going to call that bearing 0, 9, or 6 from where I'm standing. So that's not 96. If it was 196, it wouldn't be 196. It's 0, 9, or 6. You can... The reason it's spelled out this way is to make it explicit and to prevent confusion. Any questions regarding finding a bearing with the compass?
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
Fantastic. Okay, next piece we're going to talk about is the cardinal directions. There are 16 cardinal directions that you will use. The 4 obvious ones are the ones printed onto the face of your compass: north, south, east, and west. Directly between those, the primary cardinals, are the secondary cardinals: northeast, southeast, southwest, and northwest.
Primary
Candidate
cardinals,
McMillan,
secondary. Yeah, Chief.
supposed to ask you which cardinal corresponded to a bearing of 225. Which cardinal would that be?
225. That will be southwest.
Okay. Candidate Diaz, what would bearing 270 be? What would the cardinal be for that?
That'll be west, Chief.
Okay. Candidate Bravo 045.
045. Let's see. Is that northeast?
Correct. And candidate Thatcher bearing 360.
Well, it's actually not
North, Chief.
southwest. It's
Correct.
south-southwest because
North
it's
is both
220.
0 and 360.
It's south-southwest, not southwest.
People will rarely give a bearing as it relates to north. They'll just say north in that case. Because there's a giant arrow on your compass pointing that way, and that's the way people's
Let me ask
minds
you.
work.
Question, Chief, if may I ask.
Go.
You asked me about 220. I believe. Would it be more correct if I would say south-southeast, west?
I asked you about 225, which is
Oh,
exactly southwest.
oh, okay.
The secondary cardinals are at an offset of 45 degrees bearing from the primary cardinals. Thank you for providing that nice segue for me.
All right.
In between the secondary and primary cardinals are tertiary cardinals at an offset of 22.5 degrees. That
Tertiary
information is
cardinals.
for your general
North,
application.
northwest.
It is not
North,
necessarily important.
northeast.
You just need to know there's something's between
East,
a primary and secondary
south,
cardinals.
southeast.
So a quarter or 3/4 of the way
south, southwest.
between one of the
North,
primary
northwest.
cardinals, north, south, east,
West,
west. You got
west.
tertiary
No.
cardinal there.
Oh,
That is the north, northeast, west, southwest, etc. cardinals. Any
Quarter of a
questions
quarter
on
is
that?
an eighth, right?
Sorry, say again?
You're saying a quarter of the quarter, so it's an eighth?
It would be like a 16th around the thing, yeah. Yeah, but it's a quarter of the distance between, say, like south and east. And the halfway point is southeast, obviously. Let's see, candidate Diaz, what tertiary cardinal corresponds to approximately bearing 160? You can turn if you need to answer these questions.
Roger.
it's south, southeast.
That'll be south.
South what?
East, man.
South.
East.
No, sorry. Southeast. South.
No.
Okay.
South.
You were more correct the first time. The base nomenclature is first you're going to identify the primary cardinal and then the secondary cardinal to relate it to the tertiary. So the way that's going to work in practice is that bearing you're looking at is south because the primary cardinal it's closest to is south, and then southeast. So that's south, southeast. Any questions on the naming convention for tertiary cardinals?
Negative, Chief.
No, Chief.
Okay.
No, Chief.
Candidate Thatcher. What cardinal corresponds to approximately bearing 290?
290 northeast.
West northwest, Chief.
Oh, 290. 290. Sorry, I thought 020. My bad.
Candidate McMillan. What's the approximate bearing for east northeast?
East northeast.
Yep.
That will be 060.
Yeah, it's about 070, 060, somewhere in there. Close enough.
Yep.
Candidate Bravo. What cardinal corresponds to bearing 110?
110 is going to be east southeast.
Correct. Any questions on bearings or cardinals and relating them to the compass?
No, Chief.
No,
Okay.
Chief.
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
Last piece on cardinals or bearings. Cardinals are superior for less fine directional identification. For example, if you're looking back up that hill again, you might say, hey, you've got that compound on top of the hill to the east. It's an area target. You can easily identify what you're looking at if I just say, hey, compound on top of the hill to the east. There's no ambiguity there. If I wanted to identify something more fine, I might then use a bearing. For example, the left window on the second floor of the structure inside that compound would be, say the window, second deck, bearing 09 or 1. Top of the hill.
Yep.
See how one's superior for fine identification, one's superior for gross identification?
Yes, Chief.
Okay. Other thing you'll run into with bearings versus cardinals is people will often identify something as a bearing or being around a bearing. For example, we're taking fire from around 140. Doesn't mean that they've seen something exactly at 140. It just means that they flipped open their compass, looked at the number, and didn't expend the mental effort to convert that to a cardinal. So you want to be looking in the vicinity of that bearing rather than directly at it. If you've got that, around or near or in the vicinity of or any other word that might make you think it's not exactly at that point. Okay. Moving on. Go ahead and open up your map. In the top right corner, there's a button that looks like 3 sheets of paper stacked on top of each other. Go ahead and click on that to toggle the map to the default map textures, so it's the white ground rather than the satellite image type, which is the brown
Topographical.
ground. I don't care what you use personally. The map look with the white ground makes it easier to identify certain map features, and so I prefer it. I do not care what you use as long as you are effective at using it. That is my only concern here.
This one
We're
just
gonna
hurt
cover
my
some
eyes. This
basic
one is
map
better.
features here. First one we're going to discuss is contour lines. On the bottom right corner of your map, you will all see a little box surrounding some text that says contour interval and then a number in meters.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and manipulate
This
your
one.
map by zooming in and out until the contour interval is 20 meters and center your map on jump target Bravo. It's the big blue circle with an X through it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me know when you're done. You've got contour interval 20 meters and you're centered on jump target Bravo.
Done.
Done, Chief.
Done,
I'm there,
Chief.
Chief.
Okay. Contour interval indicates the distance in elevation between any 2 contour lines
Mm-hmm.
that are adjacent to one another. So, for example, you're looking in the vicinity of jump target Bravo, you see this red line here that I'm pointing at. Can everyone see me pointing?
Affirm,
Yes,
check.
Chief.
Okay. And here you've got this brown contour line. Those are both contour
Red,
lines.
brown, red.
They're adjacent to each other. And if your contour interval is 20 meters, that represents a 20-meter change in elevation between those two lines. Contour intervals relate the two-dimensional map to the three-dimensional world.
That's 100 meters.
Contour lines' proximity to each other, so down by the water west of jump target Bravo, you can see that the lines are closer together. As you come uphill, they space out more. The closer the lines are together, the steeper the terrain at that position is. Farther away apart the lines are, the more level that piece of terrain is. You close your map and look behind you at about bearing 165, you can see the hill leading up to jump target Bravo. You can also see where the hill comes over and where it kind of makes a little saddle between them if you look further east. And then if you go back to your map, you can then relate that, what you're seeing in front of you on the terrain, to what you're seeing on the map as far as the contour lines. Does everyone see
where are we
how
standing?
the two-dimensional map relates to the three-dimensional world?
So here we are.
Yes, Chief.
Yes, Chief.
Yes, Chief.
Yes, Chief.
Okay, fantastic. The red contour lines represent a change in altitude of 5 contour intervals. So the red line just west of jump target Bravo, there's not another one between it and the ocean. So that there's not another red line between it and the ocean. So that is 100 meters above sea level. If you look east of jump target Bravo towards the radio tower symbol, there's another red line. You can then relate that to the line you were looking at previously that comes around to the south, jump target Bravo, and loops through this valley. And you can then say red line to red line with your contour interval at 20 meters. It's going to be another 100-meter increase in altitude. So that radio tower is about 200 meters above sea level. The terrain marker for the high point there says 205. So yeah, fantastic. It's right about 200 meters above sea level, and the terrain marker confirms it. Any questions regarding contour interval and relating it to contour lines?
Negative, Chief.
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
Okay, if you zoom in and out a bit, you can see the contour interval change. You can see new red lines appear. Does everyone see how then, you can get a more or less detailed view of what the terrain looks like, and then pretty easily be able to judge the altitude of a position relative to another position. Does everyone see that?
Yes, Chief.
Yes, Chief.
Yes, Chief.
Fantastic. Okay, we're going to go over a few more map features here. This is more like a map key or map legend type stuff, so things you need to interpret the map correctly. The blue area on your map indicates a large body of water, in this case mostly the ocean. If you look southwest of jump target Bravo, you see a slight blue overlay on the land. That can indicate either swampy area or a shallower body of water, such as a lake or pond.
Yeah.
Ponds may or may not be marked depending on the map. If you see a pond, you may need to, use other things to identify it and therefore your location, such as, the large dip in contour lines that would indicate a depression in the ground. There may not be water actually featured there on your map, but you should still be able to relate it to other features of your map to understand where you're at.
Excuse me, Chief. Off mic. 1 minute.
Yep. Forestry appears as green shaded areas. However, this only shows how satellite views the terrain from above. It may be forest, it may be, some kind of particularly lush and vegetated field. It may be an area of low scrub. It may be jungle. You cannot tell from looking at your map. If you close your map and look back towards jump target Bravo, you can see that on the side of that hill, there's some, small green trees and whatever. If you were trying to, maintain cover from an enemy on an opposing ridge line or concealment, that area wouldn't be great as far as the vegetation goes. However, if you look on your map, you can see that, hey, there's some green there. If you're just looking at the map, you might think there's some forested area, when in fact that is not the case. If you look to the south of the ridgeline that jump target Bravo is located on your map, you see a larger area of green. That area could just as easily be another set of this, low scrub that runs a longer distance. However, I can tell you from having been on the other side of that ridgeline that that is pine forest. You would be much more successful in concealing yourself in that than on the side of the hill north of jump target Bravo. This has nothing to do with the size of the green blob. It has everything to do with me having been over there and seen with my own eyes that that is what is over there. It's potentially dangerous to make an assumption that one type of vegetation is a particular type without having laid eyes on it. Other map features. If you zoom in closer to jump target Bravo, you will see a small gray box to the immediate southeast of it. That indicates a building or some other type of freestanding structure. There's obviously a lot more buildings, up around the parade grounds area and all of that. Buildings on the map may not correspond to buildings in reality. The map may be out of date, and there may have been construction or demolition since the map was drawn. Do not slavishly rely on the map to tell you where buildings are. Gray lines, either thin or thick, near buildings, are usually walls or fences. Gray lines irregular to walls and buildings usually indicate power lines. If you look slightly further south, thank you, Roger, of jump target Bravo, near the green area, you'll see some mountain type indicators. Those indicate areas of rocks. It may be a single larger rock, it may be several smaller rocks. Just indicates rocky terrain generally in that area. On some maps, rocks will appear as large, irregular gray blobs. If it is a rectangle or a square, it is likely a building. If it's some kind of rhombus with weird and irregular sides, it is likely a rock. Any questions on differentiating rocks and buildings?
Negative,
No,
Chief.
Chief.
Neither Chief.
Okay, fantastic. Last piece of map features we're going to cover here are roads. There are 3 types of roads. There are only 2 on this map. The third does not appear, and it's one more important one, so we're going to cover that one first.
TSR.
Everyone can see that there's, like an orangey tan and a lighter tan type of road on this map, correct?
Yes, Chief.
Yes, Chief.
Okay. The one that's missing is more orange. It's a deeper orange and is an MSR, or main service route. This corresponds to, anything from a regional highway to a divided highway here in the U.S. It's a main thoroughfare.
So TSR.
Yeah, it doesn't appear on this map, but it's a deeper shade of orange than the ones up near the base area here. In the base area, you have, in the orange tan color, secondary service routes, or SSRs. Secondary service route is much like a normal back road in the U.S. It's an improved road, which means that it's paved, and it's likely wide enough for 2 vehicles. You know, traffic going one way, traffic going the other. The lighter tan roads are TSRs, tertiary service routes. These correspond to, you know, back roads in the United States, or if you have been to or are from Europe, cobblestone streets. You know, they're narrower. There may only be space for 1 vehicle to move on them at a time. And they're less improved, so vehicle handling is reduced. Any questions regarding roads?
Negative,
No,
Chief.
Chief.
No,
Negative.
Chief.
Fantastic. Okay. Next piece we're going to look at here is grids. Go ahead and zoom your map out as far as you can. Okay. For ease of reference to various locations, maps are divided into grid squares. First one we're going to be looking at here, you've got 1 number on the top, 1 number on the side. This is a 2-digit grid. Two-digit grids are 10 kilometers a side. For understandable reasons, we do not use 2-digit grids that much. We don't really have to identify most things as being an area 10 kilometers aside. Zoom in towards jump target Bravo once, and you'll see a lot more squares appear.
4-digit grid.
2 numbers on the top, 2 numbers on the side. These are 4-digit grids. 4-digit grid squares bound an area 1 kilometer aside, so that's a square kilometer. These are occasionally useful to us, especially when we're doing things like estimating an area that artillery may have fired on us from. But they're not generally useful to us. They may be used, but they're not generally used. Continue zooming in towards jump target Bravo until you see a bunch of smaller squares appear inside the 4-digit grid squares. You'll have 3 numbers on the top, 3 numbers on the side. These are 6-digit grids. These are the primary gridding mechanism you will be using in your time here. The 6-digit grid identifies a 100 meter by 100 meter box. It allows us to fix something relatively finely. There's a way to fix something more finely that we'll discuss in a minute. But the first piece of this is we're going to go over how to identify and read a 6-digit grid. If you look at the 6-digit grid square that jump target Bravo is located inside, you can see that it's bounded basically like so. Everyone see my drawing on the map there?
Yes, Chief.
Yes, Chief.
Yes, Chief.
Okay, fantastic. The way we identify the position of that grid square
Oh my god.
is going to be by relating it to the lines that bound it. So on the x-axis, that is the left to right axis featured on the top of your map, you can see the numbers advancing left to right, not up and down. You've got these 2 lines bounding the 6-digit grid square that jump target Bravo is located inside. The one on the west side is the 025 line. The one on the east side is the 026 line. If you look at the way the numbers are increasing, you can see that the square that they're increasing left to right, and that the square that jump target Bravo's in is in the 025 line's space. Does that make sense to everyone? Does anyone have questions regarding that?
Negative, Chief.
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
No questions.
Okay. Similarly, on the y-axis, or the up and down axis, for those of you who fail 8th grade math, you've got 2 lines bounding it. You've got the 049er line and the 050 line. If you look at the way the numbers are increasing, look at the direction of increase, and then you can see that that square belongs to the 049er line. If the numbers on the y-axis were increasing in the opposite direction, so if, for example, this line was 050, this line was 051, this line was 052, and so on and so forth, the grid that square belonged to, or the line that square belonged to, would be in the opposite direction. The reason this is because some people, when making maps in Arma, decided that the northern lines shouldn't all advance up. There's some maps where the numbers increase going south rather than north for some unknown godforsaken reason.
Yeah.
If you're in one of these benighted maps, you will have to flip your understanding
Fuck,
of
man, I'm
how
so tired. It's already 2 a.m.
grid lines increase on the y-axis. Any questions regarding that?
No. Those
No,
parts
Chief.
are actually
No,
easy.
Chief.
No, Chief.
Negative.
Okay. With that in mind, then, the square that jump target Bravo is in is identified as 025. You read the x-axis first. 049er. Y-axis second. So left to right, then up and down. 025, 049er. Does anyone have any questions regarding
Left
how
to
I
right,
arrived at
bottom
that
to
determination?
top. Left to right,
No, Chief.
bottom
No,
to
Chief.
top.
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
Fantastic. Okay, we're now going to have a brief practical exercise on this. I am going to put a red dot somewhere on the map. I'm going to call out a name. You will then identify the 6-digit grid the red dot is in.
Roger.
Bravo.
054051.
Correct. Diaz.
Zero 32 033.
Correct.
Tree.
Macmillan.
Roger. 009er 055.
Correct. And Thatcher.
069er 005.
Correct. Okay. Last piece we're going to cover, if you look back at the jump target Bravo grid, is we're going to cover slightly more fine identification of gridded locations. So if you want to identify something more finely than that 100 meter by 100 meter area, we're going to use what's known as a 7-digit grid.
Mm-hmm.
The way we're going to do this is we're going to divide the grid square into 9 individual squares, much like a tic-tac-toe board. And we're then going to assign the squares numbers inside the 6-digit grid square. Oh, that's not 6. The numbers correspond to the layout of the number pad on your keyboard. And the way that you'd then identify this would be, say if I was looking at the jump target Bravo one specifically with my breakdown there, that would be 02504.9.1. So it allows us to identify something to within about a 30 by 30 meter grid square. Obviously, you'll have to guess if something's on the line between two. It doesn't matter. Worst case, you're probably off by about 15 meters. Any questions regarding 7-digit grids?
Negative, Chief.
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
Fantastic. It's an easy extension of something I know you all can already do. Okay. Last piece on the map before we move on is we're going to go over some ace interactions. If you self-interact, you should have a flashlights thing and a map tools button. The flashlight thing will toggle Fulton. If it's on and it's dark out, you'd see a giant red circle. You can then turn it off, obviously, in the same way. And the map tools thing, if you show a map tool, it will pop up one of your map tools in the bottom left corner of the map. You can then click and drag to move the map tool around, rotate the map tool by alt-click dragging. You can use it to judge your range to things. There's a ruler on it. You can use it to get a back azimuth. That's generally a very useful tool and will be covered in more detail, not here, but in a later training that you may or may not take in the unit. Any questions on ace interactions with the map?
Negative, Chief.
Negative.
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
Fantastic. Okay, mount up.
Mounting up.
That's up by it.
Moving.
Right.
Wheel in.
Martini in. Everybody's in. Chief.
Yep,
Edmund.
thank you. Okay, has anyone here not used Ace Medical previously? Okay, fantastic. Everyone's used Ace Medical. Good, that makes this a bit easier. Dismount.
Smelling.
Alright.
No.
Oh, here's where I parked my helicopter.
Okay. Candidate Thatcher,
Yes,
who
Chief.
do you imagine is primarily responsible for your medical care and field were you to become wounded?
Corpse man.
Myself, Chief.
Correct. You got it in one. The person primarily responsible for your medical care is you. Corpsmen are present to administer medicine or to administer aid to severe casualties. If someone is unconscious, that is a job for the corpsman. The corpsman might ask you to assist once you've advised the corpsman that the person is unconscious,
Okay, misunderstood.
but it is primarily a job for them. If someone needs morphine or some other type of medicine, that is again a job for the corpsman. Despite you having the option to potentially administer medicine to yourself or others, as far as Arma is concerned, as far as the unit is concerned, you are not currently qualified to do so. There's an SQT that covers being able to do so, and graduating makes you able to do so. It's great. You will deal with bandages and tourniquets. First thing we're going to cover is the tourniquet. Tourniquet is a device that wraps around a limb. Obviously not the torso. The torso is not a limb. And cannot be used on the head, as the place that you would tourniquet your head would be at the neck, cutting off blood flow to your brain and killing yourself. We do not have torso compression tourniquets. We have standard limb tourniquets. It's therefore impossible to tourniquet the torso. Once a limb is tourniqueted, the limb will completely stop bleeding. You've cut off blood flow from the limb to the heart. You can still use the limb. You will still receive, some degree of pain from both the wounds on that limb and from the fact that you've got tourniquet, but you will no longer be bleeding out everywhere. This is generally a good thing, as you want to keep the blood inside you. In most cases, if you've got multiple wounds on a limb, first thing you should do is tourniquet that limb. Next piece are the 4 types of bandages we're going to use. On the ground in front of me is a field dressing. This is basically a large band-aid. Some gauze attached. Next we have the quick clot field dressing, which is pretty much the same thing, but imbued with a clotting agent to slow bleeding. Next we have the elastic bandage, that little white roll at my feet. It's like an ace bandage. You can wrap it around things, only it's also absorbent, so you can use it to stop bleeding or hold large separating wounds together. And then finally you've got the packing bandage. It's a mostly gauze creation that you just stuff into penetrating wounds. Any questions on tourniquets and the 4 bandages?
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
Not cheap.
Chief, if we have a volunteer, can someone apply a tourniquet to the neck?
I don't know. I'm supposed to actually graduate people.
Okay. No questions, Chief.
Next piece we're going to cover here is priority of care. Priority of care is the order in which you're going to most optimally deal with your own wounds or those of another casualty you're assisting on treating. The first thing you're going to do is ensure that any limbs that are wounded are tourniqueted. This will completely stop the bleeding from that limb and keep the blood inside where it belongs. Again, you cannot tourniquet the head or torso. Once tourniquets are applied to the limbs, you will begin bandaging. Candidate Diaz, which part of the body, if you had to guess, and your options are legs, arms, torso, head, which part of the body would you begin bandaging first after tourniqueting the limbs?
Head.
Legs.
Okay, Candidate McMillan, do you have another guess or do you agree?
I disagree. I believe it's the leg because you have to get up and run from the firefight.
Okay, Candidate McMillan is correct. After the limbs are tourniqueted, the next thing you will need to work on will be the legs. In the event that the scene that you're treating yourself at becomes sufficiently unsafe that you need to get up and move, you need to be able to move quickly. If your legs are sufficiently wounded, you will not be able to move quickly. Now, someone limping 50 meters to cover out of a firefight is a really bad time. Does not feel good. First thing you're going to get up are going to be the legs. After the legs, the next part of the body you're going to treat is going to be the torso. The reason you're going to treat the torso before the head is that the torso is a larger target area and is therefore likely to be more wounded or more likely to be re-wounded while you're treating yourself if you're treating yourself under fire. Since you want to stop the bleeding, you're going to stop the bleeding at somewhere that's more likely to be more wounded, which is why you're doing the torso first. From there, you're going to move on to the head. Again, since you can't tourniquet the head, there's still bleeding going on. Head after torso because of previously discussed reasons. After the head, you're going to move on to the arms. With tourniquets, obviously, once a limb has been completely bandaged, it no longer needs a tourniquet. You do, however, have to be careful with tourniquets. When you are treating yourself, the items you're using are coming out of your pack, your uniform, your vest. They're your stuff. So if you open up your inventory and you looked, you'd see your stuff going down. If you tourniqueted your own arm, you'd have one less tourniquet in your inventory. If you're working on someone else, the game will draw primarily from their inventory. You're ripping into their IFAK. So if you tourniquet their arm, you're going to use their tourniquet. If you then say, okay, I've bandaged this arm up, you're good to go. I'll take your tourniquet off. You have then stolen one of their tourniquets. They may need that later. Always remove tourniquets from yourself only or someone else only if you know it's your tourniquet that's been applied to that location. Any questions on that?
Negative,
No, Chief.
Chief.
Yes, Chief.
Go ahead.
If the person is unconscious and cannot apply their own tourniquet, and remains unconscious upon the need to take off the tourniquet, do we just hold on to it to give it back to them at that point? I would assume.
Something like that, you'd really only run into if you were working on a corpsman or someone who has more than, 3 tourniquets. The standard loadout is going to include 3 tourniquets per person. Corpsmen have more, obviously. And the only place you're going to run into needing to take the tourniquet off would be, again, if you were a corpsman needing to administer some kind of medicine or other treatment to them at that point. So, short answer is you don't have to worry about that. You can leave tourniquets on unconscious people. If you're ordered by a corpsman to, remove one, just do what the corpsman says in that case.
Roger, Chief.
Any other questions? Okay, fantastic. We're going to go over some wound types real quick and what you're going to do to treat them, and then we're going to have a practical exercise. Okay, so there's a bunch of different wound types. You're more or less likely to encounter some of them based on what they're caused by. I'll indicate which ones you're more likely to encounter. After each wound type, after I describe it and tell you what you're going to get it from and what it does to you, I'm going to give you a first and second bandage choice. The first bandage choice is what you're going to use to treat that wound primarily. And the second bandage choice is what you're going to use if you're out of the first one. Make sense?
Yes, Chief.
Roger, Chief.
Yes, Chief.
Fantastic. Okay. Abrasions or scrapes are a type of wound that occur when the skin is rubbed away by friction against another rough surface. Something like rappelling, skinning your knee. We get them from fast roping, parachute accidents, or, not accidents really, but just in the course of parachuting. If you land hard,
You fall down on your scooter.
vehicle crashes, things like that. They cause fairly light pain and fairly slow bleeding. They're not serious wounds. First choice is going to be the field dressing. You skin your knee, slap a band-aid on it. If you're out of band-aids, use the fancy band-aids. Your second choice is quick clot. Next type, avulsions. Avulsions occur when an entire structure or part of your body is pulled away, such as the loss of a permanent tooth or if you get your earlobe shot off. Explosions and gunshots are common causes of avulsions. Because of the nature of what we are doing, you will see a lot of avulsions. Therefore, it's important that you pay attention to how to treat them. They cause high pain and fast bleeding, depending on the wound size. Your first bandage choice for an avulsion is going to be an elastic bandage. Something's been ripped away, you're going to try to either pull it together or, wrap the thing up with a bunch of gauze. Your second bandage choice is going to be the field dressing. It's not a hole, so there's not a bunch of stuff to pack in it. So you've just generally got to slap a bunch of band-aids on it. Hope for the best in that case if you're out of elastics. Next type, contusions. Contusions are the fancy word for bruises. Contusions are a result of some kind of trauma that injures an internal structure without breaking the skin, or as a result of internal bleeding. They cause fairly light pain over time, and they, do not cause you to lose blood by themselves. Candidate Thatcher, what type of bandage should we use for a contusion? Say again?
Field dressing.
Okay. Candidate Diaz, your thoughts?
Elastic bandage.
Candidate McMillan, bandage type for contusions.
Contusions or bruises, you should not use any bandage because the blood is already in there. It's not out of your body. So
Correct. It's some kind of internal bleeding. The blood is at least mostly where it should be.
A little sippy cup and some fruity snacks. Get you right back in order.
Do well enough. Get yourself some Ranger candy. You'll be good to go. Next type of wounds, crush wounds. Crush wounds occur when a heavy object falls onto a person, or a person falls from a height. It splits the skin. You can break your leg or whatever. It can really hurt yourself. We get them from falling in vehicle crashes. Vehicle crashes cause pretty much everything. They cause fairly light pain and fairly slow bleeding unless the wound is severe. Your first bandage choice for a crush wound is going to be an elastic bandage. Your second choice is going to be a field dressing. Next, we've got cut wounds. Cut wounds are slicing wounds made with a sharp instrument, leaving even edges. This could be like something like a surgical incision would be a type of cut wound. Something like a small piece of shrapnel nicking you on the face or whatever. That's a cut wound. They cause light pain and fairly light bleeding. You cut your finger, you put a band-aid on it. Field dressing, first choice. If you run out of band-aids, what do you use? You use the fancy band-aids. Quick clot's your second choice. Next wound type, lacerations. Lacerations are separating wounds that produce ragged edges. You've basically created a tear in your flesh. We get them primarily from vehicle crashes or heavier artillery fire. They cause light to moderate pain and slow to medium bleeding depending on wound size. First bandage choice is going to be the elastic bandage. Your second bandage choice is going to be the field dressing. Puncture wounds are deep, narrow wounds produced by sharp objects or something being pushed into your body. We would primarily get them from grenades or shrapnel. They cause light pain and slow bleeding. Say you poke a hole in your finger, you're going to put a band-aid on it. It's not big enough to stuff a bunch of gauze in there. Field dressing, then quick clot if you're out of field dressings. Last wound type here. Velocity wounds. Velocity wounds are the other type of wound you will commonly see, along with avulsions. Velocity wounds are caused by an object entering the body at high speed. You've all got on you a device that causes objects to enter bodies at high speeds. Velocity wounds are the other thing that will fall under the gunshot wounds or artillery shrapnel wounds category a lot of the time. They cause a lot of pain. You've got a big hole punched in you. There's a decent wound channel going on, and medium to heavy bleeding. Velocity wounds, unlike other wounds, are not treated by a type of bandage, but by a methodology. If you see you've got velocity wounds, you're going to first apply quick clot, then apply a packing bandage, then apply an elastic bandage, and repeat that cycle as necessary until the bleeding from the velocity wounds has stopped. If the bleeding stops at any step, so if you apply quick clot and the velocity wound goes away, you're done. You don't need to put in the packing bandage. You don't need to put on the elastic bandage. By the same token, if you get through, okay, yeah, I put on the quick clot, I put on the packing, I put on the elastic, and they're still bleeding from a velocity wound, you then, okay, I need more quick clot, I need to do another packing, I need to do an elastic until you've got it stopped. Any questions on that?
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
Okay, fantastic. For this next piece, little look behind the curtain. I tried various methods to get a, some type of training dummy that worked out, was able to make me not have to do this piece. But Petty Officer Martini, if you could remove your vest for me.
Yes, Chief.
Thank you.
Chief, should we get
And if the
medical
rest of you could go into one of those tents behind you guys, secure yourselves each one tourniquet and 10 of each type of bandage. Then meet me back out here.
move it?
Execute.
Roger.
Roger, Chief.
Oh, he's screwed.
Yeah, give him a little taste of freedom.
Wait, how many bandages?
He said
10
10
of
of
each.
each and 1 tourniquet.
Roger. Are you sure it's 1 tourniquet and not 2?
No, he said 1.
He said 1. Hey, did someone got what was for abrasions the first choice for abrasions?
For an abrasion, it's field dressing and then quick clot.
Okay.
You don't have that.
Petty Officer Neil, you here?
Yes.
Okay, you may want to step behind the Humvee real quick.
Roger that.
I'm set. Yeah, I got the problem again. I can't jog. Shit.
Okay.
What was the victim?
Oh no. It's not looking good.
It's Petty Officer Martini.
Was.
Oh,
Was
there
Petty
was a
Officer
body bag in there. Should we grab that?
Okay, you have been presented with following casualty. What we're going to do is one at a time. We're going to get people up. We're going to remember the priority of care here. We're going to start administering some aid here until we've got all the bleeding stopped, at which point a corpsman is going to come and help you out and get him back conscious and back in the fight. So when you're up there, you're going to look at him, you're going to tell me what you want to do for each step there, and then I'm going to say okay, or no, or maybe try to guide you to something else. We're going to have some Socratic learning here in regard to treating casualties. If I tell you to pause, just go ahead and finish the bandage you're on or whatever you're doing at the moment, and then step back in line. I'll call someone else up. With that said, Bravo, let's get you up here first.
Move it, Chief.
Okay, you have a casualty.
Are you okay, buddy? Sternum rub. Not response. Oh my god.
He's in bad shape. You may need to do something.
Look at the legs here.
Okay. And the legs can occasionally be embedded in like the lower torso. It can be helpful to go into first person to find the legs.
Okay.
The way Ace is.
Ah, there we go. I'm gonna apply a tourniquet to the right leg.
Okay. And once
It's
you're
okay,
flipping
buddy.
over, the
I'm a
legs
trained
are-
professional.
Okay. You guys are like tourniqueted.
Alright, so he has 4 times velocity wounds, 3 large illusions, 1 medium illusion, small velocity wound, and a small cut. Alright,
Okay.
so let's go ahead and throw some of the field
Do
dressing on.
you have
I have
more
quick clot
tourniquets
as well.
available?
Had to grab 1.
does he have more tourniquets available? So you can check another limb, and you can see if you've got the tourniquet option, because he might have some in his inventory, right?
Also true. Go to the left leg. Not letting me add another tourniquet.
Okay. Yep. The tourniquets are actually in the vest he's not wearing, because that vest would make it harder for me to make him this way for you. So that's fine. You don't have any tourniquets. So what's your priority of care here next? What are you going to be working on next?
Continue to work the legs.
Yep. Okay. So the bleeding
That way, in case
stopped
he
on
wakes
one
up,
of the
he can be
legs.
ambulatory.
Yeah, so the bleeding stopped on the right leg from the tourniquet, correct?
Alright, so, yes.
Okay. So which leg are you going to work on then?
Work on the left leg now.
Okay. Good call. What's the first thing on that list you see there?
He's got a large velocity wound. So
Okay.
that means I'm going to do quick clot right off the get. Applying quick clot.
Yep.
And I'll go into packing and elastic and repeat the cycle as needed.
Okay.
Alright, we're going to packing on the left leg.
Okay. The velocity
And now we're going to go
is still on
into
there.
elastic.
Yep.
Don't worry, we're going to find the guy that did this to you, buddy.
Okay.
Going back to the quick clot.
Yep.
Packing.
Okay. After that packing, step back, and Diaz, step up.
Roger.
Okay. You have this casualty. You do not necessarily know what Bravo was doing before you got here. Obviously, you were watching, but just review the casualty as if it was freshly presented to you.
Roger. So legs are worked on.
Yeah, there's a tourniquet on the right leg, and the left leg's still wounded, and everywhere else still is bleeding, right?
Hey, Farm.
So what's the first thing you're going to do here?
I'm gonna check the right and left legs.
Okay.
Our right leg's still bleeding. Gotta apply a...
The right leg's tourniqueted at the moment. The bleeding indicator on the list only tells you if they're bleeding from anywhere. It's not limb specific. So if you see bleeding, it's not necessarily that limb that's bleeding, it's just that they are bleeding from somewhere.
Roger. It's the left leg's bleeding.
Yep, the left leg is bleeding. There's no tourniquet on it, and there are wounds on it. So what's your first course of action here?
Tourniquet on left leg.
Okay, do so.
Applying tourniquet.
Okay. Which leg are you going to work on next? Or what are you going to work on next? It's not
The left leg.
Okay.
Lost a lot of blood.
Yeah, again, that's a global condition. The lost a lot of blood thing.
Right.
But when you're looking at those two legs, which leg are you going to work on? If you're going to work on the legs.
So there's 4 large velocity ones on the right, on the right, and the one on the one velocity wounds on the left. So I'm gonna work on the right leg because it's the one that's hurt the most.
Okay, the left leg's less wounded. You can get it operational faster, so you're going to want to work on the left leg first. Because
Roger.
the bleeding stopped, right? And he's not going to lose any more. The tourniquet's on. He's not going to lose blood from that one. So you don't have to worry about blood loss from the right leg. You do need to worry about getting those legs operational. So fastest path to that's going to be the left leg.
Left leg, Roger. So I'm gonna apply quick loft.
Okay.
And then packing an elastic. Repeat the cycle.
Okay. Okay, you still got velocity wounds. So
Yep.
you're on elastic now. Okay. He lost one of the
Stopped.
velocity wounds, but he's still got a velocity wound up there, right? That's the first thing on your list still, yes?
FR.
Okay, so you're gonna keep treating the velocity wound.
Yeah, I have okay. Roger, applying quick love. Applying packing.
Yep.
Chief, I have a question.
Go ahead.
On the among the notes I took when we were going over the different types of wounds, I didn't catch us going over a order of particular wound care. We went over the order of priority of care of body parts, but
Yep.
I'm guessing the order that you put them in was the order from least to most severe in the case of treating them first.
You're just gonna go top to bottom on the list that you have on Ace Medical.
Okay.
So just read down the list. That's the easiest and most consistent way to do it.
Understood, Chief.
Yep. Because the game kind of prioritizes them with regard to that, so
Velocity wounds are no longer on left leg.
yep. Okay, so what does he have next?
I'm checking the right. Semi. No, negative. 2 large avulsions on the left leg. Applying elastic bandage. This is a partial avulsion.
Okay, any kind of partial, you can slap a field dressing or a quick clot on there. It's a small wound at that point. You can just use a band-aid or a fancy band-aid. And what's the last thing he's got on that limb?
He got a minor puncture wound. Puncture wounds. Field dress.
Yep, correct. Field dressing. It's a little poke. Put a band-aid on it. Okay. Is he still bleeding from that leg?
Hey, firm.
Yep.
Applying another.
Yep. Okay.
It's all
He's still
good.
bleeding from the leg.
It says in pain, no injuries on left leg.
Okay. So the bleeding on that leg has stopped. So what
Sure.
do you need to do now? What are you doing next here?
Removing the tourniquet on the left leg.
Okay. And why can you remove that tourniquet?
No longer bleeding.
What's another reason you can remove that tourniquet? McMillan. What's another reason you can take that tourniquet with him?
Well, did he mention that because he's not bleeding anymore?
He did.
And God damn it, I forgot.
Who put the tourniquet on that leg?
Say again?
Who put the tourniquet on that leg? Diaz.
I think it was Bravo.
Affirm.
Diaz. Who put that tourniquet on that leg?
On
Left
the
leg.
oh, I did. I
Okay.
did put...
So it's your tourniquet, so you can take it with you,
Affirm.
right?
Roger. Right here.
Okay. So go ahead and take it off.
It's off.
Okay. What are you working on now?
Yeah, but
The
that's
right
the
leg.
raise.
Okay. Is there something else you should be doing before starting to bandage the right leg?
Check if the other limbs are bleeding.
Yep.
What says? It says bleeding, loss of blood.
Yep. You're not looking at that. You're looking to see if there's wounds in the limb, basically.
Oh,
Yeah, if it,
yeah, there is.
yeah. So then, if there are, what are you gonna do?
Tourniqueting.
Yep. Okay. Once you've got tourniquet, go ahead and step back. And
Roger.
Thatcher, you're up.
That's right.
Okay. You have the following casualty.
Got tourniquet on the right leg still.
Yep. You got tourniquet on the right leg and the right arm.
Okay.
What are you gonna do first on him?
Picks up his right leg.
Okay.
Get him moving.
Is he bleeding in an uncontrolled manner from any limbs?
Right now, his left arm.
Correct. Do you have something that will allow you to control that bleeding?
Again, put the tourniquet on it. Over here. And... Right. Apply the tourniquet to his left arm.
Okay. Fantastic. What's your next priority of care here?
So he is not bleeding from any of his limbs.
Correct.
He's got at least one leg operational. And excuse me.
So what are you working on next?
Torso.
What if he wakes up and you guys need to run somewhere?
I'll get his leg going.
Yep.
So he's got tourniquet on there, 4 velocity wounds. The velocity wounds require first a quick clut. A packing bandage. Or elastic bandage. Alright, he still has 1 velocity wound. For clut. Bandage. And he no longer has a velocity wound in there. He has convulsions, which require elastic bandage. Elastic bandage for the convulsions.
Okay, he's got a partial avulsion. So what you gonna do for that?
Oh, I already started with an elastic bandage.
Yep. Okay. Another timely lesson. I guess this is a enhancement here. If you start bandaging, you can hit the self-interact button again to stop bandaging. This is especially useful if you're treating yourself and trying to hold security at the same time. You know, you can stop mid-bandage and shoot someone if you need to. Or if you know you didn't really want to take that tourniquet off, you can stop taking the tourniquet off midway through. Okay, continue.
Let's see. Right.
So one more partial emulsion. And a small cut. It's gonna be okay. No more injuries on his right leg. His right leg is good to go.
Okay.
I do not have my tourniquet on that.
Okay. But you have your tourniquet on him somewhere, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the tourniquets are pretty interchangeable. You can probably snag that one off his right leg. Just don't take yours back then. Make sense?
Yes, Chief. Right.
Fantastic. Okay, what's your next priority of care here?
Is torso.
Okay.
Big area. If we need to get him up and moving, or if we're in the middle of care, he could take more hits. We want to take care of this large area first with the most.
Okay, good. You can step back. Macmillan, you're up.
What's that, Chief?
Okay, you have the following casualty.
Yes, Chief.
What's your priority of care here?
Checking his legs. His legs looks like it's fixed.
Are his legs injured? Remember, you probably gonna need to go into first person and look like into his pelvis to see the legs.
No, his legs actually fine. His torso, his arms, and his head.
Okay, so I guess he needs to learn to duck. What are you working on?
I'll start with the torso.
Okay, yep, that's the correct priority care there.
So he got 8 times large velocity and 6 times large avulsions, if I'm pronouncing that correct.
Which are you working on first?
They're both priority. I'll start with velocity because it has 8.
Okay.
It's more, I mean, common
Okay,
sense.
so what are you going to do to treat those?
I will go in order. So first quick lock, then packing bandage, then elastic. Until
Roger, execute.
Until the blood stops. Until the
Yep.
bleeding stops, not blood.
Yep, till the bleeding from the velocity wound stops, which means you don't have any more on the list. Okay, go ahead.
Applying quick lot. So now he got a partial large velocity wounds.
Yep, okay, it's
And
partial. What are you going to do for the partial?
a partial. Wait, let me try to remember. Oh, field dressing, then quick clot.
Field dressing or quick clot. Field dressing first choice.
Field dressing, yeah, as a primary, and then quick clot as
Yep.
a secondary.
Okay, what are you on now?
He still has a large partial velocity wounds,
Okay.
so still working on it.
Yep. So sometimes the bandage might not get applied to the wound that you're specifically treating or the one on the top of the list. It's just the way that Arma works. The reason it's, briefed and kind of do whatever you want is because you have some control over it from what you're doing to bandage them, but parts of it are in the game's control and aren't really interactable.
I understand.
For
Although,
example, like his chest got turned into hamburger meat. He had a bunch of gunshot wounds in the chest. So you're just stuffing bandages onto the chest. The game's like, okay, they're gonna go over here instead. Yeah, whatever.
but he's getting better. I can see. From the bandages. So partial. Now I got one partial large avulsion.
Okay. So you got a partial.
Yeah. So for avulsions will be.
Any partial. Partials are the same across the board.
Oh, okay. So continue.
Chief, in regards to the way that ACE works, when a limb is red and yellow, are those the indicators of heavy and moderate bleeding? Or are those just indicators of status of the leg?
It's red if should be red if there's any bleeding. It should be white or yellow depending on how you got your ACE configured if there's no bleeding. From that particular section of the body. And then if there's a blue ring around the upper part of a limb where it meets the torso, it means there's a tourniquet on that limb. On the paper doll type thing.
Okay.
Oh, okay, you were asking about the cross indicators. Yeah, I don't know exactly how it determines that. Red is more severely wounded, yellow is less, but it's not consistent with what's red and what's yellow.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Okay, what are you on now, Macmillan?
I'm almost. I'm done with the torso, but I'm almost done with the head.
Okay, you can step back.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
If you still have a tourniquet on him, come up and get your tourniquet.
I did not apply a tourniquet.
Come up and get a tourniquet. Doesn't matter where you get it from, they're interchangeable. Got two in his arms. Bravo's grabbing his, and I think I know who the other one belongs to. Yep. Okay, does anyone have any questions regarding this evolution?
Negative, Chief.
Negative, Chief.
Chief, one question. We did seem to go a little out of order when we did that. I believe it was just for the sake of training because we only had one tourniquet on us. Normally, you would go straight for tourniqueting all bleeding limbs and then go for the legs.
Exactly.
Okay.
But yeah, you had one on you, so you had to do your best with what you had. All four limbs were bleeding. If you had 3 tourniquets available, you'd tourniquet, the 3 limbs.
I understand, Chief.
What happened?
And now that you've fixed them sufficiently, a corpsman has come by and has performed a miracle. Okay. Thank you for your assistance with the demonstration, Petty Officer.
No problem, Chief Edmund.
You can grab your vest again, by the way.
All right, Chief Edmund.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone have any questions on any of the medical?
No, Chief.
Negative,
No,
Chief.
Chief.
Okay,
No,
cool.
Chief.
Next piece we're going to cover, we're going to do a quick piece on some basics of communication here. Purpose of communication is to transfer information from people who have that information to people who need that information. Leaders need information from their element on observed conditions, for example, enemy contact, team status, other pieces of information that exist in the battle space, to make decisions. And then people who are being led need orders communicated to them to tell them what they're supposed to be doing. When you're listening, make sure you're listening for key details. If you're taking notes while you're listening, be aware of any timestamps. Make sure you're focusing on understanding the entire communication as a holistic. Next piece of this we're going to cover what are known as the ABCs of communication. It's accuracy, brevity, and clarity. Accuracy means what is said needs to be interpreted correctly. If I were to say something and you were to misunderstand me, it wouldn't be very effective communication. Brevity means that what is said should be as short as possible to convey necessary information. I could tell you a bunch of stories, in regard to a bunch of these pieces of training that we've covered today, but that wouldn't be nearly as effective. You guys would get bored quickly. You guys would stop listening, and then we wouldn't really get what we need to do done. C is clarity. Message should be understandable and sufficiently loud. If I'm mumbling like this, that's not effective communication. Making sure to speak up, project, and enunciate my words so that you can all understand me. Before communicating, take a moment to organize your thoughts. A hasty and garbled message can waste critical time. You might as well just say it once, get your message across, rather than having to repeat yourself. Next piece here. We've got echoing. Echoing is repeating a command or order that you've heard from your teammates. Echoing lets leaders know that you've heard and understood orders. It ensures that other people around you hear orders or reports. Gets your brain engaged with the information, so it's reinforcing the information in your mind. And it provides a positive and easy way to stay calm under stress. You're reassuring yourself that you get your teammates around you, and that you're understanding what's going on, so you're enhancing your ability to control and deal with the situation. When listening to a briefing or any brief piece of information, make sure you're listening again for that key information as always. This may include things like names, dates, target descriptions, particular locations, any signals information, or most importantly, specific orders regarding your element. This doesn't mean that if the other patrol's being briefed, it's time to go to sleep, but it means that when your patrol's being briefed up, you need to perk up and pay a bit more attention. Again, note-taking should not interfere with proper listening. If you're focusing on writing things down and you can't transfer that information fast enough to your notepad because you're trying to get everything, you're not listening properly. Be prepared, if you have something you're unsure about, to have a relevant, intelligent, and non-repetitive question regarding the briefing at the end. You are expected to be able to intake, process, and retain information optimally at a high rate of speed and fidelity. What we're going to do now is we're going to briefly test whether or not you've been exercising proper listening to this module. So just summarize a piece of what's covered when I call your name. Let's see. I'll start with McMillan.
Yes, Chief.
So go ahead and summarize a piece of what we just covered.
Roger that. First about the ABCs, which stands for accuracy, brevity, and clarity. Accuracy is what is said needs to be interpreted. Brevity is essentially us trying to pass as much information as possible in few words as possible, so we make sure we have a good and clear communication that they can clearly understand us, and so we are not talking too long on the radio. And clarity is a message should be understandable and sufficiently loud.
Okay.
And
you're good.
Oh.
Thatcher.
Okay.
You can either pick up where you left off, or you can summarize a different piece of it. I've got it in front of me, so wherever you want to go.
When you're listening, listen for details such as names, dates, targets, and orders. You want to make sure if you're taking notes, you're marking down timestamps, and you want to make sure that you're listening for the entirety of the communication as a whole, so that you understand the overlaying picture.
Okay. Bravo.
If you miss something during your note-taking portion, hold that question to the end and summarize it in a brief question, and take the note then. And also, just because it's not your operation doesn't mean you don't perk up and listen. Might be good to know those details.
Okay. DS. Summarize a piece of the module.
I'll pick up on the echoing command, which is repeating orders or reports so that everyone's aware of the instruction given or order given, so everyone's aware and current. Also, comms should be relevant, intelligent, and non-repetitive, and an element should be able to retain information accurately and precisely.
Okay. You skipped around a bit there. You started on echoing and you ended somewhere else. Or some other reasons that echoing is important, rather than just letting the person in charge know that everyone's hearing them.
Is this a question for anybody, or is it specific?
It's specifically for DS.
Oh, can you repeat?
What are some other reasons that echoing is important besides letting the person in charge know that you've heard it?
Is that so everyone's aware of the current order or instruction?
Okay. That's another one. Can you give me one more? If you can't, tell me no rather than sit there in silence.
No.
Okay. Any questions on basics of communication?
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
If I may add, Chief,
Go.
for echoing, I'm trying to remember. You said not only letting the command know,
okay.
but
hold on a minute. I'm sure you can. If you want to catch up with them on it afterward, feel free to do so. We're gonna move on.
No, I'm asking you because
oh, okay.
I'm
sorry, I thought you were adding something.
No, because I mixed up with it. So, is it echoing with the one you said you also have to stay calm and what else? You add some you said something on echoing, but I forgot.
It
on
helps
staying
you stay calm, and it helps reinforce the information in your own mind when you echo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Mount up.
Mount up.
Moving.
Murky in. All in, Master Chief Edmund.
Roger. Okay. Dismount.
Dismount.
Voted.
Dismount eyes.
Mine.
Okay. We're going to cover some topics with regard to movement, both individual and team. This is another part where you get to stop standing in line and get to run around a bit. So hopefully that should get you engaged a bit more. Break up the monotony of me just talking at you. The basis for effective movement as a team is our ability to move individually. Leaders will make decisions for that team movement based on a variety of factors, including likelihood of enemy contact, requirements of speed and stealth, and mission profile. And then they'll pass orders that I'll teach you how to interpret in this section. When moving, you need to avoid being seen or heard. You should stop, look, and listen before moving. Cover is any object that will stop rounds or fragmentation, and concealment is any non-protective but obscuring object, such as a bush. When leaving a position, you should ideally identify a position to move to before leaving. And while moving, if you're on a longer movement, identify positions of cover and concealment as you move on the route. When examining an area before or while moving through it, look for covered or concealed routes by which to move. Keep yourself near that stuff. Avoid large open danger areas when possible. Avoid hilltops or the tops of ridges. The uniforms we were provided are brown, green, and tan to blend in with the ground and foliage. They are not meant to blend in with the clear blue sky. If you are visible against the clear blue sky, you'll be silhouetted against that backdrop. You'll be easily visible against that background you do not blend into, especially because the eye is good at detecting movement against contrasting backdrops. When crossing roads or trails, try to do so in covered or concealed areas. Avoid areas of uncertain footing, steep slopes, areas of scree or loose dirt, rocky or uneven terrain, and pivot or hold ground. Any questions on that stuff?
Negative,
Chief.
Chief.
Okay, go ahead and take the weapon off your back. Gonna need it for all of this movement piece. Go ahead and raise the weapon. First thing we're going to discuss are body positions. You've already seen the 3 primary body positions, standing, crouching, and prone, and we're able to demonstrate all of those on command at the range, so I don't think I need to review those in any exquisite detail. Each primary position also has a high and low variation, accomplished by the Control W or Control S keys. Control W will give you high, Control S will give you low, and you can go all the way up or down with Control W or S. So with standing, you've then got high standing. Go ahead and get into high standing. Make sure that you're aware not only of what your body looks like, but what someone else's body looks like when you're doing this, because it helps you work around your teammates and yourself. Down 1 obviously puts you in standing. So don't crouch, but Control S from high standing. Down another is low standing. Someone may call this a squat, but that's not super likely. We've got high crouch, crouch, low crouch, high prone or sitting, prone, and low prone. The various body positions are useful for manipulating your weapon around obstacles. If you need to shoot over a wall, high standing might be your friend. If you need to shoot under a car, low prone is going to be helpful. Now, all of these are designed to get your weapon into whatever loophole you need to have that weapon in, so that you can effectively work that target. Go ahead back to standing. Not high standing, just standing. There you go, good job. Okay. Each primary position also has the ability to step out with Control A or D to the left or right. So step left, step right. If you try to step from a high or low position, it will put you into the primary position. So if I'm in low standing and I step right, it's going to put me in standing. So I'm going to be at that standing height. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Yes,
And
Chief.
then if I step back to normal, I'm going to still be at standing. It's not going to put me back to low standing. So you got to be aware of that if you're maneuvering around some piece of cover or whatnot. Just game feature that feels weird for your proprioception if you're used to being able to actually move yourself around with a weapon. In crouching and standing, any of the positions, you can lean with Q or E and double tap to hold the lean. This will not get you out of a high or low position. So if you're in high standing and you lean right, you'll stay in high standing height. And if you lean back center, you're in high standing again. You can combine leaning with stepping out to form modified positions, but be aware that this will again default you to a primary position's height. So, yeah, if you're in high standing and you step out and lean, you'll be in standing when you come back to normal. Last piece, we've got guns up versus guns down, accomplished by double tapping the control key. This will come in handy in a minute when we talk about team movement, but guns up is something where you've got your
User
weapon
disconnected from
in
your
some kind
channel.
of present, and guns down will give you a low ready. There is no high ready on our mods list at this time, so if you're looking for one, sorry. One moment. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to assume a body position, and then I'm going to ask you in turn to identify it. So, for example, and I'm not just going to throw it at you blind. This right here would be low standing, lean right. Make sense?
Yes, Chief.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, Chief.
This would be crouching, step right, lean left. Make sense again?
Yes,
Yes,
Chief.
Yes, Chief.
Okay. If you need to move yourself around to try to identify the position I'm in, feel free to do so. So you don't just have to stand there and guess wildly at a wall. You can, try to manipulate your body to see what I did to get into that position, and then you can, get yourself in something similar. Okay, let's see. McMillan. What's
Yes.
this?
That's low crouch, lean left.
Yep. Bravo.
It's gonna be low prone. Can't tell if you're leaning or not though.
This is prone. Never mind. I'll let you. Fuck.
Yeah, are you even lean at prone?
If you try to lean in prone, you'll roll side to side. Mess around with the stuff a bit. Try to figure out how
Yeah,
to
this is
get
the
into this.
this is the Travis Haley under the truck, but your leg is different.
Yeah.
What the F is the internet, dude?
Let's see. Thatcher. What do you think this is?
Alright, how the fuck
Uh,
did you get in that position?
Low. It
You gotta
is
Control D.
prone, leaning right.
Yep. This is
Low
prone
prone
right.
right, yeah.
Prone right, and you can prone left in much the same way. This is the Travis Haley go around the front wheel of the truck thing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
Kimchi squat.
Thatcher, what's this one?
That is low standing. Step right, lean. No. Hold on.
Yep.
Low standing. Step right, lean left. Excuse me.
A mirror
it-
from you, remember?
Me?
It is. Oh, it is. Sorry. Step left, lean right. Low standing. Step left, lean right.
And when you go to step left, it takes you out low standing, right?
Yes.
Puts you back in front. So that's just standing,
Standing.
step left, lean right.
Understood, Chief.
This stuff isn't super useful. This is mainly to test that, you know, you're able to manipulate your body into a bunch of weird positions and figure out how someone else is getting there. Let's see. Diaz, you haven't gone yet, correct?
Correct, Chief.
Okay, let's see. What's this one?
Taking a shit.
It's the That's a high crouch. High crouch. Step right.
Can I combine high crouch and step?
It's a crouch. Step right.
You sure about that? If that's what you're doing, I don't think we look the same.
Don't we?
It's a high crouch, peeking right.
Is it leaning?
Yeah, it's high crouch lean right.
Eh.
Again, this isn't like you're not going to be called on to, you know, assume the high crouch lean right. It's more, you know, you need to be able to figure out what someone's doing to manipulate their body in a certain way, and be able to replicate if, you know, they need to go somewhere else and you need to take some weird loophole that they're in. Any questions on that?
No, Chief.
Okay, fantastic. We'll move on to some team movement stuff. Okay. Smallest element we're going to be working with on the teams is the two-man swim buddy team. You should not be working completely alone at any point. You should be probably within 15 meters of your swim buddy pretty much all the time. Swim buddies should be practically doing at the hip. You need to know when they're moving. You need to keep an eye out for them. You need to fucking make sure that they eat breakfast. You know, I don't care. You need to take care of your swim buddy, and they'll take care of you. An 8-man patrol is made up of 4 swim buddy teams. The leadership may, you know, split off buddy groups, but there's no real intermediate unit. It would be like a pair of swim buddy teams rather than a fire team. Steel platoon is 2 8-man patrols. To move as a team, we're going to move at various paces or speeds. There's 4 speeds in standing and crouching. The fastest is rushing, accomplished by holding shift in your forward movement key. You'll do a sprint or a double time or whatever you want to call this. It's rushing. You'll run around quickly. Below rushing is fast pace or normal pace, accomplished by simply holding your forward movement key. This is what you'll normally get. If you do nothing else and just go forward, looks like this. Below that is combat pace. In combat pace, you'll have the weapon ready to fire. You'll be kind of doing that heel-toe forward trot. This is how you identify the difference between fast pace and combat pace. Is the weapon ready? Yes, no. And below combat pace is walking, accomplished by Control C. Excuse me. Combat pace is accomplished by double tapping C. Walking is accomplished by Control C default. You will walk. Pretty self-explanatory. In the prone, there are 3 speeds. Technically, there are 3, but there's actually 2 because Arma's that way. You got high crawl, accomplished by shift and forward movement key. And then crawl below that, accomplished by just forward movement key. And low crawl, accomplished by double tapping C. Low crawl does not change your actual speed forward over the ground. It just changes your crawling animation to make your arms and legs move more slowly. If you cannot identify whether you're in crawl or low crawl, it's not a big deal. If you're told the low crawl and you're not confident about being able to identify the difference, just keep crawling forward. It does not matter. Any questions on speeds?
No, Chief?
No, negative.
Oh, Chief.
Okay. So now we're going to tie this all together. The way the team moves as a cohesive whole is what's called a pace call. Pace call has 3 elements. You've got speed, so that's one of those, speeds we just talked about. You've got body position, standing, crouching, or prone, and weapon readiness, guns up or guns down. Any combination of speed, body position, and weapon readiness is a valid pace call. So, Bravo, give me some random pace call, and I'll...
Rushing.
Okay. Running around. Thatcher, give me one with all 3 of the elements. Some speed, some body position, and some weapon readiness.
Fast crouching.
Okay. Crouching?
Weapon ready.
Yep. So this would be fast pace, crouching, guns up. And you're moving along. So deciphering that speed, body position, weapon readiness is the first thing you're going to do. You're going to identify, what you need to do to manipulate your controls to move at that speed. You need your body position, and then you're going to put gun up or gun down. It's really straightforward. It allows us to, stay together and not have like a bunch of slinking around, people falling behind, people moving forward, as long as everyone's on the same page. We're going to practice this. Does anyone have any questions before we practice?
How do you guys handle a desync?
Just keep moving forward. The servers are pretty good, so unless someone's got really fucky internet, there shouldn't be a ton of desync.
Alright.
Just try to maintain, your position relative to the person if they're having some kind of stuttering issue. Yeah, it happens occasionally, but it's pretty limited scale. And they should still move forward at approximately the same rate. If someone's getting too far ahead or behind, they're going to need to adjust for themselves. Any other questions?
No, Chief?
No, Chief.
Okay. Last piece of this, if any element is changed while in movement, so if we're moving at pace, say like standing, guns up, fast pace, and one of the elements is changed, for example, the order is given to crouch, All you have to do is change that. You just keep moving, hit the crouch button, and you're still on pace. Make sense? Nothing else about the pace changes, just you've gone from standing to crouching. Everyone good on that?
Yes,
You're
Chief.
good.
Yes, Chief.
Roger that.
Okay. So don't worry about any kind of formation or anything right now. You're just going to follow me in a file type thing, a basic kindergarten line, one after the other. I'm going to make a pace call. We're going to do some moving around here. We're going to do some changing it up just to get you guys familiarized with the format here. Ready?
Ready.
Okay, so let's start with an easy one. Standing, guns up, fast pace. Moving. Okay, remember that if there's any call made to change anything, you need to be echoing that to make sure that everyone's kind of on the same page. You know, if we've got 10 guys running around here, I might not be able to yell all the way to the back. So we got to make sure they're hearing it.
Roger.
Crouching?
Crouching.
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 Okay, combat pace. Double tap
Combat
C.
base.
Combat pace.
It doesn't change the crouching part. All you're doing is switching to combat pace. If I were to then say standing fast pace,
Standing fast pace.
Standing fast pace.
you'd change those two elements and we'd be
Standing
right
fast
back
pace.
on track.
You just switch your pace.
Third one in line is in combat pace, wherever that is. Make sure you're checking that relative to the people
Yeah,
around
leg.
you.
Sorry.
If you start falling ahead or behind of the people around you, it's your job to make sure that you're staying with the team and on pace. That's your individual responsibility. People will help you out, but you need to make sure that you're integrating yourself into what people around you are doing. So you also need to get used to how you look while moving in a certain pace and how other people look while moving at that pace. You need to be able to adapt to what people around you are doing. Guns down.
Guns
Guns
down.
down.
Guns out.
Guns down.
Guns down, last man.
And walking.
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 With walking, I recommend a brief stop. If you don't stop and you try to control C, it'll pop you into
Walking.
high standing, which can be a bit awkward.
Last man.
So if there's a walking order given, just stop for a second, switch to walking, and keep moving. If you're out of walking, same thing. So if we go to combat pace, I'll stop
Combat
for a
pace.
second.
Combat pace.
Combat pace.
I'll stop for a second, get out of walking, and then get myself on pace. Any questions on pace calls?
Negative, Chief.
Chief.
Negative, Chief.
Okay, fast pace.
Fast pace.
And
Fast
we're
pace.
just gonna wrap around over to here.
Last pace, last man.
Okay. With pace calls, the one making the pace call is usually the point man. The point man's job is moving the team around. So he's going to be the one with that positional authority to take that commander's intent and translate it into that abstract order. So pace call is not likely going to be coming from the element leader. It's going to be coming from the guy up front. When the point man's saying something, you want to echo that back down the formation or out from him one by one. So if you're in a file, it's going to be, point man says something, second guy's going to echo it, third guy's going to echo it. Just because, if you're fairly compacted, yeah, people near the back may be able to hear. But if you're over like a, 30-meter dispersion crossing some kind of field somewhere like that, for whatever reason, you just got to make sure that everyone's used to it so that it gets executed on properly if it needs to be. If the leader's saying something, everyone who can hear it is going to immediately echo it. So if the leader orders some kind of pace change, just immediately echo that. It should become fairly obvious to you pretty quickly with both directional audio and people having different voices who's giving a a report or movement order. The point man versus the leader. Make sense?
Roger, Chief.
Chief.
Fantastic. Okay. Now we're going to talk about some formations. Leaders will again choose formations based on a variety of factors, including again the area that they're crossing, security considerations, speed of travel, and ease of maintaining it. Formations may be more or less strictly controlled based on the leader and the leader's intent for the formation to accomplish. If you're say traveling for a long distance through some kind of wooded area or whatnot, and you don't really think there's going to be any kind of enemy contact, there's no real reason to be blobbing around and breaking the thing up. If you're moving to contact, like you're maneuvering and there's already either some kind of active firefight going on or you're in a less secure area, things may be more fluid at that time. Make sense?
Yes, Chief.
Okay. So keep that in mind when we're reviewing any of these. The primary thrust of any formation is giving you that awareness of where your teammates are, either exactly or approximately. So you know when you're moving, where your teammates should be around you. And then it provides an easy way for the leader to have a good understanding of where the element all is. So if he needs to get reactive to something with pieces of the element, he can say, okay, we're in this particular formation. I know they're probably, pretty close to about here. If I need them to swing around X or get some kind of angle or something, I can easily get them on target. If we're, just running around in a tactical blob all the time, it's a lot harder for not only you to figure out where a particular teammate or even some of your teammates may be, and it's a lot harder for leaders to understand where people are around them without having to micromanage and maintain some kind of hyper awareness. Make sense?
Yes, Chief.
Roger.
Fantastic. Okay, first thing we're going to look at over here, we've got the column or file. You guys can break whatever you're doing, kind of mill around these while I'm talking about them, so you can get a better look at what's going on. Formation is basically each member directly in front of or behind the other, facing the back of the head of the person in front of them. From an overhead perspective, this formation will appear as a straight line pointing in the direction of travel. The reason that you've got people canted out to the sides here behind the point man is point man is responsible for the area directly in front of the formation, and then people will blade out, left and right. Not really off the axis of movement, and not even so much orienting their body around, but at least looking over their shoulder pretty often on that side they're covering to make sure we're not getting run up on. And if everyone's just cruising along, staring at the backpack of the guy ahead of them, we don't have that awareness we need to stay secure in movement. Similarly, the guy in the back there, if you take a look at him, he's facing backwards. Doesn't mean that if you're in the back of a file, you're going to be running along like this. It means that no, every so often, you're going to either take a look over your shoulder, maybe you'll turn around for a second and just scan real quick and then catch back up. You're responsible for that rear security. That makes sense to everyone? You're not running along kind of like this or backwards or whatever. You're just maintaining that awareness of security sectors. Make sense?
Yes, Chief.
Yes, Chief.
Chief. Fantastic. File provides strong fire superiority to the flanks. You're basically online with any target to your left or right. It's the easiest formation to maintain at a high movement speed. Follow the guy ahead of you. It does not get easier than that. Everything else is harder. Useful when moving in relatively safe areas, dense areas, or across some kind of area of uncertain footing, like a valley or hillside, it keeps everyone on the same pace if you're, crossing somewhere where you might be, slower or faster depending on the slope of the terrain. Obviously, if we need to cross a minefield, the file is the go-to formation for crossing the minefield. You want self-clearing biological autonomous self-clearing mine device to trip the minefield once in the line rather than having everyone walking along it separately and blowing themselves to hell. File can be shortened or lengthened by spacing. As it's shortened, there's more of you in a concentrated area, so you're more vulnerable to area of effect or high cyclic rate weapons. As it's lengthened, fire superiority can diminish as combat power is diluted. File should not be used when near a known enemy position or in a wide open space. It's not going to get it done for you. If you're advancing towards an enemy position, you're all in line with that fire. If you're trying to maneuver across a wide open space, you're like ducks in a shooting gallery. This is not the play. Any questions on the file?
Negative.
So,
Chief.
No, Chief.
Okay, moving on.
I'm gonna get there first.
We have got the staggered column. This is 2 files. Same as the file over there, you just got 2 of them.
Also known as a ranger column.
Say again?
It's also known as a ranger column.
Yeah. This will appear to be 2 straight lines pointing in the direction of movement. This one is not really properly spaced. You want to maintain about a 45-degree offset from the opposite column. You want to be between them so you have that full loophole. Staggered column provides maximum gun exposure to your flanks. It's also got built-in loopholes to shoot through. If we take contact left or right, and we're properly spaced here, you can just turn left or right and shoot in that direction without worrying about fratricide if you're properly spaced. Now you can shoot through the formation, move up on line easily, get back in column.
It also adds flexibility because if one side hits contact, the rear squad or half fire team can maneuver. So you have your base of fire and then your flanking element ready to go.
Yep. It's useful on patrol in relatively safe areas or for when traveling along roads or pathways. You can also use it for escorting vehicles. If we're escorting some kind of vehicle down a road, we've got dismounted security readily available on sides of the vehicle in a controllable formation. Also got the ability to peel to the sides of the road if a contactor vehicle comes along the road. If we've got foliage on both sides and something comes down the road, they don't see you. Okay, it's gone by, and we're back, and we're traveling again. Easy peasy. As with the file, shouldn't be used near known enemy positions, and this shouldn't be used in thick areas because you've got to maintain some kind of contact between the 2 columns. It doesn't have great exposure front to rear either, so as with the file, shouldn't really use it near known enemy positions. Any questions on staggered column?
Negative.
Negative.
Negative, Chief.
Chief.
Okay, next we've got the line or firing line. Team aligned shoulder to shoulder, facing in the direction of travel. From overhead, this will appear as a line perpendicular to the direction of travel. Obviously, provides maximum forward gun exposure. It's relatively controlled by a leader, either as part of the formation or walking behind it, controlling the formation. It's great for assaulting known enemy positions because you've got that maximum gun exposure front. There's 2 very easy ways to transition from a file to a line. Way number 1: everyone in the line, or everyone in the file, faces left or right, and you then proceed online in that direction. Really simple. Way number 2: point man calls the line, and people branch out left and right, alternating around him to get online. Make sense?
The chief.
It's Chief.
It's pretty hard to maintain in Arma, especially because you don't have that easy left-right proprioception of where your teammates are. So it's important to make sure that you're kind of on pace and checking your spacing every so often. It's pretty slow to maintain because of that. Obviously terrible for crossing minefields. Not great for moving through safe areas because it's so slow. It can be pretty cumbersome if you need to wheel it as well around one of the sides, but that's something that the leader will help direct and figure out. Any questions on the firing line?
No, chief.
No, Chief.
Negative.
Negative, Chief.
Fantastic. Okay.
Ooh, the
Next.
diamond.
Next, we've got the diamond. Each operator will line themselves into the perimeter of a diamond shape around a central point and space themselves according to tactical and terrain needs. Additional team members will fill in the gaps. As more team members get on the diamond, enlarge it as necessary. It's usually going to be a protective or escorting formation or something where we're in some really weird situation where we need 360 security but we're not moving down a piece of cover. If it's a protection type thing, the leader and his swim buddy will usually provide close protection, and then the diamond will build in the direction of threat. So if we're moving away from a threat, it's going to be heavier in the rear. If we're moving towards a threat, it's going to be heavier in the front. Make sense?
Yes, Chief.
Tracking.
Yes, chief.
Fantastic. The diamond can definitely bunch or clump the team tightly, which will, again, increase vulnerability to area of effect or high cyclic rate weapons. Any questions on the diamond?
No, chief.
No questions.
Fantastic. Okay.
The echelon.
We've got a echelon left here. You can see its friend, the echelon right, over to your southwest. Echelon is a one-sided wedge. You've got people kind of bladed off to one side at an angle. You've got the point man in the front, or at the tip of it, and you've got the point man's swim buddy to the offside, covering his offside. It's facing the direction of travel. You'll space themselves. You'll space yourselves according to terrain and tactical needs. You've got moderate speed here. It's easier than a line to maintain because you can kind of cheat to your side and see what's going on. You've got good combat readiness, both front and sides. If you need to get online to engage a threat, it's as easy as I'm here, I'm not online. I'm here, I am online. Just move up on the point man, get online, deal with the target. The leader can obviously pivot at about the point, but that's more of a consideration for the wedge. Dense terrain's obviously a hindrance because you've got to maintain decent visual contact to use many of the wedges or echelon type things. Point man's swim buddy's main job on this offside here is making sure that the point man's not going to get contacted by something from that offside. The leaders or the point man is making the decision to get into the echelon based on the expected direction of contact. But if it doesn't come from the expected direction, the point man's swim buddy is going to be the one who makes sure that the team either sinks or swims. Any questions on the echelon?
No,
Negative.
No, chief.
Negative, Chief.
Okay. And over here we've got the wedge. The wedge is a two-sided echelon. It's an even echelon. You align yourself in a V shape relative to the direction of travel. Space yourselves accordingly. If you take contact on a flank with the wedge, because you're more evenly spaced, you've got one side that's more online, and the leader can then pivot a maneuver team around the point to start working on the contacts. Dense terrain, as with any kind of spacing intensive formation can make this hard to maintain. Any questions on the wedge?
No,
No,
Chief.
Chief.
Okay, and if everyone was facing the other way, we'd have a V. V is a backwards wedge. More useful for envelopment or when you want some kind of weird interlocking fires.
Ambushes.
Say again?
Ambushes.
Yeah, though, I mean, you'd usually get like some kind of L set up. You wouldn't be moving to contact to ambush, generally, you know? It's really difficult to maintain your spacing and bearing through pace changes in a V because you can't see the people to the side of you really easily because they're behind you. Not commonly used. Any questions on the wedge or the V?
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
Okay. Last part of this, we've got hold calls and perimeter security. Call of hold is going to freeze the formation in place. You'll crouch. If there's cover within 5 meters of you, you'll move to that cover with your swim buddy and communicate that you're doing that. Always make sure that you're working with your swim buddy. Don't just go to the cover. You can stick with them. You can crunch up on them if you need to. Just make sure you're working with them. You know where they are. If we've been in the open for longer than like 30 to 45 seconds, go from that crouch to that prone. Get yourself a bit more settled in. So hold call is going to freeze you in place. The other call you're going to hear is you're going to hear hold ahead or holding at some kind of distinct feature, you know, a rock cluster, a wood line on the other side of the road. That means that you're going to move to that position and you're going to establish perimeter security on that position. So you're not going to freeze the formation in place, you're going to establish a full tight perimeter at that location. Hold, you're just going to stop, blade off to your sides and get immediate security. Hold ahead, you're going to move to that point, you know, collect on that point and hold that point versus hold the formation. Make sense?
Yes, Chief.
Yes, Chief.
Yes, Chief.
Fantastic. Okay, when holding or conducting perimeter security, or even in movement, as we discussed earlier, all possible threat directions must be covered. Point man's going to cover forward, tail guy's going to cover rear. You've got to cover other directions, communicating, you know, left, right, whatever, and paying attention to areas that your teammates are already covering. You don't necessarily need to be, okay, I've got southwest, I've got northeast. You just got to look at the people around you and work yourself into that perimeter. Make sense?
Yes, Chief.
Roger.
Yes, Chief.
Yes, Chief.
Okay. As an enhancement to the security side of things, we're going to talk quickly about reaction to contact. When you spot contact, you're going to call the contact utilizing the 3 Ds. You've got direction, distance, and description. So you're going to give a direction. It can either be a bearing or a cardinal, or it can be a direction relative to your line of movement. So, you know, if you're moving in a certain direction, 3 o'clock's going to be off to your right. You know, you can do front right, front back, left back, a front type things. Any kind of relative direction, either clock or left, right, front, back, is going to be relative to the direction of travel. Distance is obviously going to be the distance. You know, you can either call it in meters or you can relate it to terrain features. Perfectly appropriate distance, perfectly appropriate contact call would be something like, you know, say we're moving in this wedge here, down the road to our north. Contact front right, near the house, top of the hill.
This is like reacting
Everyone's
to contact.
immediately able to orient on what I'm looking at. Correct?
Yes, Chief.
Yep.
That last piece is the description. That's the near the house part. You know, you're describing either what the contact is or what the contact is near to get people, you know, either on target or in the general direction of the target. Front right's the direction, and top of the hill is the distance. Make sense?
Yes, Chief.
Yes, Chief.
Roger, Chief.
Understood.
Fantastic. You'll, when you're in contact, or after that's called, you'll listen for orders, and if new movement orders are not immediately given, So go crouch or go prone, start searching for contacts, and start engaging per the ROE to gain fire superiority. If you're seeking cover in immediate contact, go no further than 15 meters from the team, communicate the movement, and stay with your swim buddy. Always stay with your swim buddy. It's not, okay, we're in contact, I'm going to go herring off to those rocks. It's, the contact call's made. I'm going to go to somebody, hey, I'm moving to those rocks. Let's go. And we'll go over there, and the team leader or someone will have heard that we're moving over there. So I'm out there, I've got a friend, and the team knows where we are. That way, if something happens while we're out there, someone's going to come and get us. Any questions on contact calls?
Negative,
No,
Chief.
Chief.
No.
And reaction?
Was all clear.
Fantastic.
Was all clear.
Unclear.
Okay, cool. Last piece here. We are almost done. Okay, last piece we're going to cover some brief interactions with vehicles, both through Arma and Ace, and then a few things about vehicular operations. So go ahead and come on up to the vehicle. Okay, first thing we're going to discuss is Arma interaction with vehicles. Any Arma interactions, obviously scroll wheel related. So if you use your scroll wheel, you can see get in, you can see the inventory, blah blah. Thing we're going to cover that you may not have seen before is tow ropes. I can use the deploy tow ropes option to pick up the tow ropes. I can then attach these to another vehicle and then use this vehicle to tow that vehicle. You will always attach the rope from the towing vehicle to the towed vehicle. If a vehicle is not moving under its own power, it's the one you should attach the tow rope to. If the vehicle's moving under its own power, you should never attach a tow rope to it. You can then put away the tow ropes. One of you can then pick them up. Deploy tow ropes. You can drop them in place. You can steal them from other people with pick up.
How do you drop them in place?
Drop tow ropes.
Oh, okay.
And they'll fall there, and then someone else can grab it. And you can then, if you're looking at the vehicle, steal them away from everyone and ruin everyone's fun with put away tow ropes. Any questions on ARM interaction with tow ropes?
Negative, Chief.
Negative.
No, Chief.
Gotcha.
Okay, fantastic. Check something real quick here. This should have it. It does. Excellent. Okay. Next thing we're going to cover is ACE interaction with vehicles. If you ACE interact with the vehicle, you'll see there's two options. There's one to get in, which is a relatively newer ACE function, if I remember correctly. So you can then choose your seat. It's easy to get in. If you're trying to get into some vehicle that's got weird arm interactions, especially some helicopters, it may be easier to just use ACE to get into the vehicle. So keep that in mind. It's handy. And then there's cargo. If you select cargo, you should be able to open up the cargo menu. Do so now, and you'll see that there's a spare wheel in there. I can then unload that cargo. And we get a wheel. The wheel is now an ACE object. So you can interact with it. You can load it back in the vehicle in much the same way that you'd load, say, a prisoner or someone you're carrying around. You can load them into the vehicle in the same way. You can also pick up and carry it. Here's the fun part. This wheel is now one of the most dangerous objects in Arma, because Arma physics are fantastic things. Do not hit anyone with an ACE object you are carrying. Do not hit anything with an ACE object you are carrying. If you're ordered to, say, load this wheel into this vehicle, and you have the genius idea that, oh, I'll just put it in the back, and then the vehicle will drive away. The vehicle will do something interesting, including explode.
Lol.
If you're ordered to
Demonstrator.
load something in the vehicle, always do it by loading it through the ACE interaction menu back into the vehicle, and it's gone.
Welcome to Arma.
You can also change the tires. So what we're going to do is each of you is going to pick a tire. You're going to take that tire off. You're going to move to the next tire clockwise from you without killing anyone else, and replace it on that wheel well. And someone killed someone else.
Oh,
Oh, I think it was me. Sorry.
Yeah, you
Like,
gotta be careful with them.
so
when you-
Clockwise.
even if you walk with it,
Clockwise. Yeah, if you smack it
clockwise.
into someone while
To
you're
the
walking-
right.
Clockwise, to your right.
Wait,
Is that what you
clockwise.
guys think?
Wait, wait, to the
Clockwise
left.
is-
To the left.
Wait,
Clockwise.
yeah.
Clockwise.
Clock, 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 clock.
you confuse me. What the fuck?
Sorry,
If
could
you
just
smack that wheel into something while you're moving it, you're gonna have a bad day.
Sorry, dude.
No problem.
Okay. While you're changing that, hold on a second. Did he just go to space?
He's flying right now like Harry Potter.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Thank God.
Where
I-
is he?
I was hoping it was just like a weird Arma thing, and that he was actually still there. That didn't actually, enroll you in the Navy space program. Okay. Fantastic. That's how you're gonna, ace interact with the thing. In general, you'll mount and dismount only when ordered to do so. There's two types of dismounts. We've got hard and soft dismounts. Hard dismount is going to be everyone out. A soft dismount is going to be driver and gunner stay in, everyone else out. Any order to just dismount is an order for a hard dismount. So if it's not specifically called soft dismount, everyone out. Any questions on that?
Negative, Chief.
No, Chief.
No questions.
Okay, after you
Hold on.
dismount, you
Um,
got it. Yeah, go ahead.
he's bleeding.
He'll be fine.
Okay.
After you're dismounted, you've got to establish perimeter security. When dismounting, move 10 to 15 meters from the vehicle in case it's struck by fire. As with all perimeter security, awareness of coverage by your teammates has to be maintained to ensure complete coverage of all possible threat areas. If everyone gets out on one side of the vehicle, you've got to get some people who are going to move around it and cover that other side. Make sure you're remaining within earshot of your leaders so that you've got communication. Do not position yourself directly behind or in front of the vehicle in case the vehicle moves suddenly. Leave a clear path of movement so you don't get run down. Go ahead and mount up on the vehicle, and once you're all in there, go ahead and dismount into security positions.
Dismount.
Alright, all in. Dismount.
Taking
Your
south.
teammates are
Taking
going,
south
get
side.
yourself set up. Okay, make sure you're 10 to 15 meters from the vehicle. One of you is still a bit too close. There you go. And then, if I'm somewhere near the middle, closer to the vehicle, you can all still hear me. And
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that you're in range to all still hear each other as well if you talk. So,
iPhone.
I think so.
Test.
Lima Charlie, help me.
Lima
you go.
Charlie. Have you 5
Lima
by 5?
Charlie.
Everybody.
Any questions regarding perimeter security after dismounts?
Negative,
Nothing.
Chief.
I do, Chief.
Okay, you can collapse back in a bit. Last piece is regarding convoying. There's not going to be any demonstrations, just some information. Convoy spacing, default spacing is about 50 meters. You need to maintain distance to allow reaction to sudden stops, turns, or, the vehicle in front of you blowing the hell up. But at the same time, you have to maintain proximity to maintain convoy cohesion. Make sure everyone's seeing what turns are being made if they're off of the convoy route. Make sure everyone can support each other by fire or by movement. So you've got to balance that distance versus proximity. When a convoy is going to halt, it's going to proceed into what's known as a herringbone formation. The lead vehicle is going to pull off to one side of the road, and vehicles back from it are going to alternate bladed outward on the opposite side of the road. So front vehicle turns off to the right, second's going to turn left, third right, etc., so on and so forth down the thing. It's going to allow proper clearance of the road for traffic and proper side security coverage during halts. Any questions on that really quick basic convoying stuff?
Negative.
Negative.
Negative, Chief.
Okay, fantastic. Does anyone have any questions about anything that's been covered today?
No, Chief.
Negative,
Negative.
Chief.
So does the compass always point north?
On the map, yes.
No questions. No
On the-
questions.
It points at your heart's greatest desire.
Okay, cool. I guess that's you, McMillan.
Oh, actually, I have one
Yeah.
question
Oh, yeah.
regarding the map tools.
Go ahead.
When you pull up the... Oh, how was it that you pull up the tool again?
Self-interact while on the map.
Right. And it was, when you do that, and you have, say, I pull out a small tool, I
Yep.
can move the small tool on it. Do I, wait, I don't need to rotate it? Can't I rotate it?
You can rotate by alt-clicking on it.
Oh, okay, that's right.
You can spin it around. There's some
Yep.
additional functions you can do with it. You can
Oh, it wasn't you, I know.
you can align it to north. You can align it to your compass. There's a ruler on the side of it that'll let you really accurately measure distance to places, which is pretty helpful at certain points. Any other questions?
No, Chief.
No, Chief.
Okay, cool. We're just at about 3.5 hours, which is pretty good time. I know we got started a bit late, so we're about a half hour later than I really wanted to end. Thank you all for your patience and for coming out. If you've got no further questions, you're dismissed. You'll be advised of pass-fail after a command review. Failure to attend phases 2 to 4 with this class will cause you to be either recycled to the next class or dropped.
Roger.
Chief, last time I did this, I had signed up for phase 2, but things came up and I couldn't attend. I never received a pass or fail prior to phase 2. Is that something received on day of phase 2? Or is that something we received prior to?
It depends. It's got to be reviewed by someone other than me, basically. I put together some information, and I make a recommendation. So
Roger.
that depends on how long they end up taking.
I understand.
And for the next phase, it's also going to be at 12 p.m. 6 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, it's on the calendar. It's the same time, same day of the week.
Okay.
So same time, 1 week from when we started today.
Roger.
Chief, I have a question.
Go.
So phase 4 is not posted yet. Is it also going to be at 6 p.m.?
That I am not certain of. I'm not in charge of the scheduling for phase 4. I'm in charge of the scheduling for phases 1 through 3. Once we're through phase 2, and I know you guys have time zone issues. Once you guys are both through phase 2, I'll try to reach out and coordinate with them and also you guys and make sure you're notified well in advance.
Roger, Chief.
And I have to say, I appreciate that you guys put the time on 12 a.m. instead of 2 a.m. because that actually make a big difference. I mean,
Yeah.
6 p.m. instead of 2000.
Yeah, no, it's especially because it's on Sundays. I figured it would be easier for people to be able to attend if it was a bit earlier in the day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. You guys are good to go if you've got nothing else. I can stick around and field questions all night if you want me to, but you don't need to remain here. You can get off, go on about your lives.
What time is it for you, if I ask? 10?
I'm on Mountain Time, so it's 8 p.m. for me right now.
Whoa, still early for you.
It's early. Yeah.
Yep.
Alright. It's 4 a.m. for me.
Man, that's early.
Yeah,
3
that's
for
early.
me.
Alright,
10 p.m.
Thank you
Eastern.
guys for coming
gentlemen.
out.
thank you, Chief.
Thank you,
Have a good
Chief.
night, guys.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Good night, guys.
Have a good night.
Martini, do you see the Cadre prep posted for that
Alright,
Saturday?
guys, that's it for now.
I haven't been on
Uh,
the
Until next time, though. Bye.